A premium membership at chess.com will help you improve your game with full access to a powerful set of learning tools. Unlimited tactics let you practice like a master, with more than 50,000 puzzles to challenge you at every level. Our library of interactive chess lessons, created by master coaches, will enhance every aspect of your game. And after each game you play, the computer analysis feature will give you feedback on every move you played, turning every game into a chance to learn. And that's not all. Premium benefits also include unlimited tournaments, video lessons, the Opening Explorer, and much, much more. Upgrade now to take your game to the next level.
Welcome in, everybody, on this very, very special Sunday. It is a Mother's Day Sunday, and a happy one we wish to all mothers of the world. It is also the first ever Superfinal here in the FIDE Chess.com Online Nations Cup. We're very excited, and as we get the day rolling here a little bit early, we start things off actually with a very, very special guest who I'm going to introduce via some highlights, and some of you may start recognizing him. He is a chess fanatic, a professional footballer, first and foremost, of course. But he is a chess fanatic, and he is joining Grandmaster Robert Hess and I right now. The one and only Esteban Granero joins us. Esteban, you are a huge fan of chess. And please tell us, have you been following this event? And if so, who were you rooting for?
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm a huge fan of chess. I'm a professional football player, but in another life, I would love to have been a professional chess player. But I learned how to play when I was old, so I didn't have the chance. But I love watching chess. I love playing chess. This is my what I spend most of my free time. So I'm so happy to be here with you and following of course the championships you are producing. That is very exciting.
Well, we're very happy to have you. And I mean, my first chess question for you is the Spanish your favorite opening?
This is too much theoretical, so I try to use different variations from e4. So I used to play e4, e5, bishop c4, and bishop c4, yeah, and try to do something with my this kind of BNS system with f4 and everything.
Well, sometimes when we bring professionals of other sports or different genres, their level in chess is very, very minor and interested. But you're actually, we looked it up in preparation for this interview. You're roughly 1600 rated FIDE. You just played in the last tournament you played in was about a year ago or a couple of years ago. You've been busy.
Yeah, I became a FIDE member because I joined the league when I was playing in the Basque Country. So I had this chess club just next to home, so I joined them for the league, and I played like a couple of tournaments. But that's all. I haven't played professionally anymore, so I didn't have the chance to improve my ratio. But it's like I play online mostly because I don't have time to do many other things. But I love playing chess online, or even when I have the chance to go to a club or find someone in the street playing chess. This is something I always enjoy.
And people love to make comparisons between sports and chess. What do you find, if any? Is there some overlap there? Does chess help you with your football, or vice versa? Any insight you have on those topics?
Well, I don't know if chess has helped me. It helps me to disconnect from football and so. And yes, you can find some similarities between. I read someday this book is called Football and Chess. I don't remember the author name, but it was very, very interesting because he was trying to analyze chess in the way football and similar advantages like central advantage or initiative or this kind. I try to associate these advantages and disadvantages between chess and football, and I found this very interesting.
If you're just joining us, everyone, we are with Esteban Granero, professional footballer, formerly of Real Madrid, now with the Marbella Football Club. But telling everyone a little more about you, you have a psychology degree, and you also founded a company surrounding artificial intelligence, which has a lot of goals. But right now, it's been doing research in terms of looking into different areas to help fight the pandemic. Do you mind telling everybody a little bit about what your company does and what their goals are?
Yes, I have these partners that are two scientists, Spanish scientists of artificial intelligence, cathedratics in the university, and then we found this company and started doing analytics with mainly sports, also industry, but trying to make this predictive and prescriptive analysis from data collected in sports in order to anticipate and to reduce uncertainty for decisions and in sports. And yes, with this pandemic, we has twist a little bit our resources in order to try to make predictions about the real contagious and the evolution of the virus here in Spain and also in every autonomous community. So this is something we have made just to try to help. And we have spent a couple or 3 weeks doing this kind of predictions, and hopefully it will help to make better decisions in the future.
It's fantastic, and great effort, and also fascinating to know about the original purpose of it too, in terms of the sports analytics. I wanted to shift gears a little bit. You've gotten to know Levon Aronian from what I understand. You actually invited Levon to come out and visit a game, and I know Robert asked a similar question earlier. But in meeting a professional chess player like Levon and getting to know his personality and his approach to chess, are there any comparisons you could make to the world's elite chess players to world's elite football players in terms of their personality, their approach to different things, or maybe their competitive spirit? What would be your thoughts on that and getting to know Levon a little bit?
Yeah, I met Levon in San Sebastian because we were kind of neighbors. He has this beautiful house in this beautiful town that is San Sebastian. And yeah, we met a couple of times. We had some wine and played some chess. He's so kind and so has a great spirit. And between professional football players and professional chess players, I think they have same similarities that any professional sportsman has. That is this competitive competitive spirit. And I remember when I was playing some chess with him, he always played the best move. And it's like I was telling him that my level is very low, so you need to.
But he didn't take it easy on you. He wouldn't take it easy on you.
But he told me he needs to make the best move because he's on the table, so he needs to do it. And this is something that is in my mind because it's very important to try to. If you want to be the best, you need to always try to do the best. And this is something I found out with Levon, that is a fantastic person, and I send him my greetings from Marbella.
Well, did you also teach him a little bit of football? What are his skills like on the pitch?
No, we haven't played football, but I know he was trying to prepare for the candidates, and he was going to our club, Real Sociedad, in order to make this physical conditioning that is, I think, very important for the resistance and stamina in chess games. So you need to be fit also to play chess because you have these 5-6 hours games, and you need to be focused for 6 hours. And this is also about energy, and keeping fit is very important. And I know he was doing this in our club.
It's amazing, and great stories to be shared here. Esteban, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. I just want to wish you the best of luck, obviously, in all your endeavors, not just as a professional football player, but in the company that's investing in sports analytics and hopefully maybe even making some headway in terms of things we can do to fight the pandemic. But On behalf of the team here, just want to thank you so much for being here, and you're invited to any other future chess shows. Maybe we can play some chess sometime. So great to get to know you.
Hopefully we will do it. I would love playing chess. And congratulations for the tournament. And I'll be watching from now to the final. I will be connected, watching the games. And thank you for calling.
Thank you so much,
Esteban.
Thank you.
Well, that was great. Catching up with one and only Esteban Granero there. It's always interesting, Robert. And again, you and I obviously we have an opportunity from time to time to talk with, call it just stars of other non-chess related endeavors, right? And sometimes their interest in chess can be very minor, or just for lack of a better way to put it, kind of for show, right? For us to bring them on. But in this case with Esteban, it was like far from it, right? Obviously a very interested chess player, 1600, spent time with Levon Aronian, and as he said, in another life, maybe wishes he was a professional chess player.
Well, he has been able to play in some over-the-board tournaments. As he clearly has a love for the game. He even said specific moves, his openings, right? So it's not just like, oh, I dabble a little bit. No, I've actually done a little bit of studying. And he's a player of your own heart, Danny. He said he likes the aggressive lines with, e4, e5, bishop c4 with f4 to follow. So I was really happy to hear that. And, just to remind everybody who, may not be clear of what's going on here, this is the super final of the FIDE Chess.com Online Nations Cup. 24, in fact, 36 of the best players around the world competing, but we are down to just two teams, Team USA versus Team China for, well, not, they say all the marbles, but here it's all the dollars, right?
It is, and it was dramatic yesterday. If you missed it, Saturday was the day for both rounds 9 and 10, but on round 9, Team Europe defeated Team USA, leapfrogged them, seemed to have everything in hand for them to be the ones here on Sunday competing with China. And then the United States shocked the world. They upset China in the last round to give themselves another chance at them today. And Team Europe fails to hold their destiny in their own hands. If they beat Team World, they still would have been here, but they were unable to do so. So, wow, it was amazing. We're so excited for today. And let's preview exactly what the Superfinal format is, right? Because obviously we've been seeing a double round robin take place all week. Now we are down to the top two finishing teams. As you can see there, that's who's participating. The match is each board playing each other one time. So it comes down to the drama of one chance for everything, right? The board color is that the top finishing team from the double round robin chose their color. They have chosen white on boards 1 and 3, from my understanding. And that will actually give us some rematches we're going to talk about here in a second. The tiebreaker is that the top finishing team from the double round robin gets draw odds. Now, obviously, we had Wesley So on at the end of the day, and initial comments, obviously, of a Team USA person. He was like, wait, that's not fair. But, of course, as we reminded him and talked about it, the whole thing we've been doing here all week has given an opportunity for every team to fight to be the top dog. And otherwise, what reward would they have, right? Kind of like the reason you have a regular season is to have something that they have a chance to defend here in the final day. And Robert, you made a great comparison. This would be like an Olympics where if a team was trailing by a half a point to another team, they would have to win the last match, right? So the USA is essentially trailing by a half a point because China has draw odds and they have to win.
Yeah, that's actually the exact framework that I was going in with, because at first I was like, well, draw odds, 4 games, it doesn't feel right. But that's if you're on equal territory. But this isn't that. China dominated the 10 rounds that we saw in the double round robin head-to-head format. So China deserves the upper hand. And as we see the head-to-head between these two teams, very close affair in both matches, 2.5, 1.5 in China's favor in the round 5 battle they had. And then in round 10, just yesterday, USA, when they needed to win, they indeed won that despite the loss on board 1 for Hikaru Nakamura.
Yeah, and Hikaru has been a rock for Team USA. It was actually the first loss he suffered in the entire event. Was in that last round of Ding Liren. And fortunately for Team USA, the only loss Hikaru had was in the one match where I guess it didn't matter because they got the job done. Now, the thing I think we really have to highlight about this head-to-head battle they've now seen each other twice in round 5 and round 10 is that the pairings were the same in round 5 there on board 4 between Irina Krush and Hou Yifan. We'll talk about that in a second. But the pairing that changed, that was the same in both, is the one between Fabiano Caruana and Wang Hao. Fabiano, well, he dominated that matchup. He beat Wang Hao with both colors head-to-head. And as we bring up the pairings for the Superfinal, that might be why Wang Hao is sitting this out. And Wei Yi has stepped in here for board 2.
Yeah, it's a tricky question because on one hand, Wang Hao is super experienced player. He's in the candidates tournament that's now postponed. He's exceptional, but so is Wei Yi. And maybe you want to bring in that young energy, a player who doesn't have this personal history with Fabiano Caruana. You look at their classical head-to-head. It's one win, one draw in Fabiano's favor, but they haven't played very much. So perhaps Wang Hao's just like, I can't deal with Fabiano right now. He's the number 2 player in the world for a reason. So let us start fresh. Let's put Wei Yi in there and keep Yu Yang, who's been stellar with the exception of that final round game against Wesley. So they get their rematch. And then finally, as we look to board 4, you put Ho Yifan back in there to take on Irina Krush. And remember, Ho Yifan beat Irina in round 5, despite the difference being Ho Yifan had white in that matchup.
Right. Well, and let's start running through these individual matchups here. I guess we'll go in reverse order, starting with board 4, and then we'll back our way back up to the top board. You just highlighted Ho Yifan obviously has a plus record against Irina Krush. Maybe in classical, not as dominant as people might think in terms of just having one win to her credit. But in rapid, obviously a couple dubs there. And obviously we know that because she's been a little bit absent from the world of professional chess, maybe that record is not has had as many games as it might otherwise. So Ho Yifan, certainly a favorite, not taking anything away from Irina. Even Irina herself would say that. And so Miss Krush has her work cut out for her here on board 4.
Although I will say that Irina with the white pieces, that kind of negates some of the advantage that Ho Yifan has. That the rating differential is huge, but we saw Irina get a good position against Ju Wenjun yesterday in that final round where Irina had white. So that offsets some of it, but I agree with you, Danny. Of course, advantage China on board 4.
Let's go to board 3 here, as you highlighted. Yu Yang has been, in many ways, was our pick for MVP. He's been dominant on board 3. No other way to put it. And his only loss of the event came yesterday to Wesley So, and it's the reason that he gets a rematch here. So what do you expect to see here? Do you expect to see Yu Yang repeat an opening and improve upon it that he did yesterday? Do you expect him to go away completely from the Berlin that they had? Your thoughts on what we're about to see?
Well, Fabiano Caruana joined us for an interview yesterday, and he said that Yu Yang is probably just having some fun because China's already qualified for the Superfinal. So this A5, A6, Knight B7 stuff that we'll look at eventually, it was kind of offbeat. It was kind of bizarre, but he can do that when you're playing with house money. So in this matchup, I think that China has to rely on Yu Yang to hold off Wesley So. Wesley being the higher rated of the two in classical chess, the stronger of the two, I would say, but Yu Yang being in great shape throughout the first 8 games he played. And then yesterday's, head-to-head with Wesley So clearly didn't go his way.
Let's talk about the board 2 matchup. As we said, the head-to-head went 100% Fabiano Caruana's way when it came to his battles versus Wang Hao. So the man playing in the candidates for China is out. He is sitting this one out after losing a very, very rough game yesterday very quickly to Fabiano Caruana. Wei Yi steps in, as you said, Robert. He's the younger competitor, obviously less experience against Fabiano Caruana, very little actually in terms of total games there, right there, 2 total. So your thoughts on what this means? Does this actually help China psychologically, or do you feel like it's a momentum shifter for Team USA to say, yeah, you know what, we kind of made you change your lineup there with Fabiano's great chess?
Well, this is the battle that USA has to win because Fabiano Caruana has the white pieces. He's the number 2 rated player in the world in classical chess. He's unstoppable thus far in the Online Nations Cup. So this is USA's board. Like, if I am Team USA, I'm hoping that my other 3 boards can neutralize and Fabiano can win with the white pieces here because no player in this event has been able to take him down. Wei Yi with the black pieces, that's a less experienced player. It's a lower rated player. And it's Fabiano Caruana. I mean, just that's all you need to say. Fabiano Caruana, white pieces. I'm taking that every time.
Well, we still need to bring up the Hikaru Nakamura versus Ding Liren matchup. That is the board 1 battle. So let's talk about that. We've got 1 loss for Ding Liren versus Hikaru Nakamura in classical. Hikaru leads that head-to-head battle. In rapid, though, it's
also all Hikaru.
Also favoring Hikaru. So Hikaru historically has done very well against Ding Liren.
He has, but the nearest history closest to us was yesterday's game where Ding Liren beat Hikaru Nakamura with the white pieces. So I understand that Hikaru on paper there has the better head-to-head record. He is a bit older. I don't know when all of these games have taken place, but Hikaru is the better of the two in rapid chess, even though they're about the same level. When things go online, maybe it's just my bias here. I just think Hikaru Nakamura, right? Online chess, Hikaru Nakamura, they're synonymous in so many ways. But Ding Liren, if you look at his rapid rank in the world, it's number 3. He's actually higher rated than Hikaru. Those things fluctuate so regularly because there aren't that many tournaments and the K factor is higher. But I would have to give the nod to Hikaru Nakamura in a match. In one game, Ding Liren with the white pieces, right. I'm looking to neutralize because we only need to tie the match if I'm Team China. We don't need to win the match. We need to score 2-2. So I'm not taking risks because that's when Hikaru Nakamura pounces. And so with Hikaru being generally in quite good shape, he's had a few shaky games, but overall, I've liked his form. I would just try to get a nice, stable advantage if I'm Ding Liren and try to work that one.
Yeah, I think you prefaced it well, right? In a match, Hikaru would be favored in rapid and blitz there. But in a single game, Ding Liren gets white. That's going to be an interesting one. But like you said, if Ding pushes too hard with white, I think, like you said, Team USA probably would be happy with a draw there if you consider Fabiano Caruana getting white on board too, right? But if Ding Liren pushes too hard, watch out for Nakamura to pounce back. So we've seen it happen before. This is going to be crazy and exciting. And before we get set here for the games to begin, we will remind you that something else that's going to be crazy and exciting, one of the biggest things we have going on right after this event is the European Online Chess Championship. The first time the ECU has organized such an event. Obviously, we've been doing everything we can to help be the online platform, the online backbone of that. And for those who are interested in maybe throwing their hand in and trying to win a cash prize, you should consider doing so. So, okay, well, we're going to take a second here to just, again, gather ourselves, take a deep breath. The Superfinal Sunday is about to get underway. You see the pairings right there. We couldn't hype it anymore because we don't need to. It's going to be epic. Don't go anywhere. The Superfinal kicks off here in just a few minutes when we return. And we are back here once again with the FIDE Online Nations Cup. It all comes down to this. This is the Superfinal Sunday. A happy Mother's Day. And Robert, you also have some happy wishes to send here.
Yeah, well, I want to say happy birthday. Happy Mother's Day to my mother, but also happy birthday to Pentela Hari Krishna, the Indian Super Grandmaster who competed in this event. I want to shout out him and give him a happy birthday wishes. So hope you're doing well despite your team's absence from the Superfinal.
Hari is an awesome guy, a great person to talk to, and played some great chess here with some bad luck. In the end, I think hate to remind him of this on his birthday, right? But he was the only guy who maybe lost the game because of a mouse slip. But that was just some of the bad luck India faced. But anyway, we love Hari, and happy birthday, man. Let's talk a little bit about these matchups here. Robert, we saw the pairings listed in color order or board order, if you will, just a second ago. Now we've got everybody up there. This is what it all comes down to. Team China, their investment, they are riding with the former women's world champion, Ding Liren, only one candidate. The other candidates sitting out, Wei Yi, Yu Young-yi. And then you've got Team USA, the same team that got them here by beating China yesterday, is in the lineup. Robert, give me your last second hype here before the games get going.
I really don't know how to evaluate this matchup, and I think it'll be easier once the games get underway because you need to get 2.5 points for Team USA, and I'm not sure that's possible. Once again, they did it yesterday, but history may not repeat itself on this Mother's Day.
Seeing some predictions there. USA 3-1, go China. Let us know in chat who you're rooting for. Everything you can. Let them hear you. Maybe some of them are still listening before they are required to turn off the show and focus, because it is our daily question. And we want to ask you, of those players, who has been the most valuable player in the FIDE Online Nations Cup and why? Let us know. Obviously, we want to know who you're rooting for. And now we want to know who has been your MVP. It all comes down to this. And can't wait to hear it. Can't wait to see some votes on that. I think we'll have some great social media reasons, because I think you could make an argument, obviously, for Yu Young-yi. What about Fabiano Caruana? Won yesterday, right? Won twice against Wang Hao. What about Hikaru for his consistency, right? You've got, you've got so many options. Wesley So. I think probably if you were choosing a Team USA, it would have to be maybe Caruana or Nakamura. But anyway, can't wait to hear what people think. Here we go.
And we have liftoff.
We do. Where to begin?
I don't know. I mean, too exciting. And look at this game here. We have Ding Liren, Fabiano Caruana. You just said his name about being MVP. Hikaru Nakamura with the black pieces. And they're rushing through this Italian game. H6 played to take away the G5 square from either the dark square bishop or the knight in some variations, if I can put pressure on F7, and A5. So this is a line that we've seen Hikaru play so many times, Danny, against Maxime Vacher-Lagrave, against Jan Nepomniachtchi, and here against Ding Liren for 2 days in a row.
Well, I want to check in on the game between Fabiano Caruana and Wei Yi, because hashtag Team Scandi lives, right? The crowd goes wild. Nothing like a rare sighting of a dubious opening at the high levels.
And the reason we don't like it is that you just saw the queen captured in the center and then immediately retreated. That's typically not good. You don't want to waste time like this. But black claims I have a very solid base to my position. Where are you going to attack me? I can put a pawn on E6. I can put a pawn on C6. Sort of shut down the center of the board. And one other thing to note is that we do not have a symmetrical pawn structure. White has a semi-open E file, which can be to his advantage here, whereas black's semi-open file, the D file, that also, if you can poke at that D4 pawn, then you'll be happy. But white, of course, will not allow that to happen so easily.
Well, I could continue to run through the games individually, but why don't we just take a second and step back and look at all four at once, right? Here we have our bird's eye view, as you and I already previewed, the Italian there on board one. What a fast, talk about the prep that those two guys are busting out, right? Hikaru Nakamura and Ding Liren. We have the Scandinavian there. Then, of course, on board three, what are we looking at there? It looks like a very sharp version of some sort of Nimzo Indian or Queen's Gambit. But yeah, Nimzo, and then we've got our second Scandinavian. No, that can't be right. I think that's the board two being shown again on board four. So we'll check in on that here in a second. Yeah, no, on board four we have a different game. Let's go to that. We've got Irina Krush and Hoi Fon, and we'll head over there.
Yes.
So we've got This
is surprising to see because it will start with D4 and ends up being an exchange French. And Irina Krush, if you know her games, she's a D4 player through and through. But this might be team strategy for USA. hold off on the other boards and win with Fabiano Caruana. That's what I said. If I were team captain, that's what my strategy would be. I know it's putting a lot of pressure and the entire onus on Fabiano, but that's where your biggest advantage is. And so if you're Arena Crush, you are, the board where China has the largest rating differential. Hold off Ho Yifan. That's the most important thing.
Right, and as you said, why do we think that that strategy is coming to life on the board? Well, partly because of the opening here, everybody. It was an exchange French, which don't take anything away from the fact that you can win these positions, certainly for both sides. But if you were trying to play a slightly more risk-free brand of chess, creating a completely symmetrical pawn structure and developing pieces just actively, logically, it's very difficult for Black to force something dynamic, despite maybe being the stronger player in Ho Yifan, without taking big risk, right? So that's what you do if you're Irina here, right, Robert? You're saying, well, if you want to make this thing spicy, eventually you got to do something where you play for a c5 and we get isolated queen pawn structures. Or you do some of the lines where Black actually tries to develop the queen side in a hurry and get castled over here for an attack. The problem with both of those things is they're inherently going to create winning chances for White organically. So it's not even that you're doing something to take advantage of a mistake by Irina. You're playing a risky kind of game that you're going into of your own initiation, right?
And the key word that you use there is organically, and I really like how you frame that, because for the player with the white pieces, you don't have to take a risk. You don't have to do a pawn storm and weaken your own king. It's nothing like that. You just continue developing. You castle. You put your pieces on normal squares. For example, castle, rook e1, things of this nature. But I mean, for Ho Yifan, you don't want to just allow some sort of easy game for Arena Crush. You feel like you are the strong of the two players, so I need to have some winning chances. I may not play for a win necessarily, but if my team needs me, then I will have to be able to mix it up at some critical moment. So right now she starts with knight c6. The knight on g8 can either go to f6, but likely e7. And once you put your knight on e7, your bishop on c8 has some options as well. Do you put it on g4? Do you try to trade on f5? There is some flexibility here for Black. You don't just have to play copycat chess.
Right. It's a good point, and that's why I think Yifan gave pause there, because of the strategy we're sort of highlighting about Irina's approach to getting something very symmetrical. Irina's not trying to just keep this a really, really stagnant pawn structure. Knight c6 is already suggesting, let me get some flexibility here, and that's what she's trying to do. So, all right, well, again, before we choose which game to go back to, let's head back to our bird's eye view and take a look at all four at once. Now that we've got them all going here. I think we obviously have to go check on board 3. One, it looks like it might be one of the sharpest ones, and it's also the only one we haven't officially looked at. But as you look at all 4 games there, let me remind everybody, of course, you can head over to chess.com. The pairings that are going on are right there on the left side. These are each of the positions, chess.com/events, chess.com/live, or just go to go.chess.com/ONC games, and you will be taken where you need to go. So, Robert, let's head over here. Board 3. The Chess Panda 123, as he's known, Yu Youngyi. I can't stop rhyming. I'm not even trying. Okay, here we go. What are your thoughts on this Nimzo as I play through the openings?
As you see on board 3 now, I mean, this is a very sharp line, generally speaking, but it kind of transitioned to something that doesn't actually look that sharp. So before c6, white is up a pawn, but you are going to lose the c5 pawn. And so you're like, how do I give this pawn back? Do I allow a black piece to capture me? Well, the issue is black's going to capture with the knight on c5, which hits the queen on b3, and the bishop on b4 is already defended by this knight on d5, which means the knight on a6 can indeed move. So that is why Yu Youngyi plays c6 to ruin black's pawn structure. But as you see the game continue here, very naturally, bishop d2 to make sure c3 is defended. And he didn't take on b7. You can sometimes throw in moves like that. Instead, what Yu Youngyi is focused on is just making sure his king doesn't get in any danger. And if you do it, and take on b7 in this position, you already have to watch out for eventual captures on c3, rook coming to c8 or d8. You're allowing black to just get in the flow. And you have received one pawn for that, but look how quickly black's pieces just go after white. So I like the decision, of course, to play bishop to d2. And after you recapture on c6, the long-term claim, Danny, and I'm sure you would attest to this as well, is the split pawns on the queen side should be advantageous for white.
Yeah, and this c6 idea is something that you see in these openings whenever the knight is not on its, let's just call it the most natural square. Most openings that beginner chess players to advanced players know end up with knights on c6. But when knights aren't there, they're on a6 or they're on d7, this is an idea that if you've never seen it before, you should put it in your pocket, because call back on different openings. I remember one where Morozevich came up with a really interesting way to give a pawn sack back. And again, it's one of those moves you're playing. You're wasting a tempo rather than waiting for them to take it in order to break and eventually target these positional weaknesses. So, I think White just has a small edge here. Positionally, you have to think that. But also, the question is, does So have something up his sleeve in terms of not maybe even exact preparation here, Robert? But, maybe he feels like Black's initiative in this line is good enough to hold in the sense that he can justify and get enough compensation for the weaknesses.
Right. You hope that the kind of activity of your pieces makes up for the structural deficits. And I will say that I like Eugenie's decision not to repeat yesterday's line. That symmetrical pawn structure that Wesley So has so much experience in. In fact, they were following his own game against Vladislav Kovalyev from the Vaikonze tournament back in January. So going into new territory where White is slightly better, you and I both like White's position here. I think that's a very good choice by Eugenie. But the choice, I mean, we looked at it earlier, the Team Scandi, Danny. I'm looking at this and I'm just like, is this a good choice against Fabiano Caruana? Because I'm feeling suspicious about it.
Yeah, we're going to head over there and look at the Scandinavian now because you said, is it a good choice? I don't know. We'll remind everybody we made some fun Team Scandi jokes, and that's not what we're here to talk about. But again, the Scandinavian is a risky opening inherently because of the time you lose, but it has its positional idea, which is I know I'm losing time. I have a purpose. And I want to try to put pressure on this pawn, and those are the natural things that Black is going to try to do. Knight to c6. Now, b6 is played with the idea that even though you lose a tempo on d5, the pawn has gone from d4 as a target to the kingside bishop and the queen, to now being on d5 as a target to the queenside bishop and the queen. But it'll be interesting to see what Fabian has here. I mean, there's no way to talk about the Scandinavian without us feeling like we like White. Can I just say that a little bit?
Well, I mean, the reason why is, look, White currently has more space. White is fully developed. All four minor pieces are developed, whereas Black's bishop's on c8. And even though the knight on a5 is technically developed, we don't really like the knight in that square because it's not doing anything. If you ever played bishop b7, you have to look out for b4, trapping the knight on a5. So be very careful as you try to finish your development. And one more thing, Danny, that I'll say here is that pawn on d5 is such a thorn in Black's side. And I personally am never sure. Do you play a move like e6, or does sort of opening up more space help White? Because if you look at that queenside pawn structure in particular, the light squares over there can be invaded by White's pieces.
Yeah, no, and obviously the theory is still probably being called upon again, if not exact preparation, at least the ideas of the lines they wanted. Or maybe Fabiano has already surprised Wei Yi a little bit in his approach to the Scandinavian, right? The reason Wei Yi might have played it is to try to surprise Fabi, but he did not slow down. He did not miss a step. He's played very quickly because as we get to the live position, we see he's already up about 4 minutes on the clock. We got to give a shout out here to more than 20,000 of you already with us. It's early in the morning on the West Coast. It is Mother's Day. No matter where you are, thanks for spending part of this day with us. The Superfinal has just gotten underway, so buckle up, sit down, don't go anywhere, and stay here to see what happens between Team USA and Team China. Board one is where we got to go to. Surprisingly, it's where we start. It's where you start a lot of things. We haven't actually talked that much about this game yet. In fairness, all four boards are going to be crazy awesome. But I won't even back up through the opening yet, Robert. Just give us your thoughts on the current Italian we see on the board. This is a very topical structure, let alone opening, that we see at the high levels these days. And these guys clearly brought their best prep.
Yeah, this is one of those positions where you say chances for both sides and it's a cop-out. And the reason why you say that is because if you look at this position, what are some of the dynamics you notice? I notice an isolated pawn on a2, but a very strong bishop on b3 aiming at the Black king. And then I look at some of the other pieces. I say, wait, what's this knight on h7 doing? It came from f6. Well, if that knight goes to g5, you can start making inroads against the White king. And not only is it aiming at the king side directly, the d4 square is essential to this position, because if that pawn ever pushes, well, then that bishop on b3 looks useless, and the bishop on b6 now becomes the powerful one. So knight to g5 ideas are very common in these kind of Italian positions, and it removes a defender of the center. And there's a bishop on b2, a pawn on c3, rook on d1. I know for the time being it's defended, but that's one of the ideas, not to mention you can bring more pieces forward for Black.
And I love the point you're talking about knight g5, not just as a means to, okay, if a trade happens, I'll bring the queen over here to the king's side. But as you said, the knight on f3 is such a key supporter of what white wants, which is to keep this tension. White doesn't want to be the first to break. As you said, blocks the bishop, opens up this guy. So many people actually following this game directly on chess.com right now. Of all the four boards, of course, Hikaru Nakamura has a huge following online, and the chat room directly on chess.com. Forget Twitch and YouTube and Chess TV, which is great. You're awesome. We love you. But that I can just see the amount of people going nuts over there directly on chess.com. It's exciting. So, all right. Again, as we said, this is a very topical opening, but if you just tuned in, these two guys, we kind of skipped over them because they played so fast. This theory was just like this is something they might have, been bringing to a candidates or something. Neither of them even paused to think at all until we got to about right here. Hikaru took 3 minutes and 10 seconds. You can see the time logs directly on chess.com, which is important context for us as commentators, because what is it suggestive of, Robert? That means right here on move 13, before rook a8, Hikaru was maybe on his own for the first time, right? Slowed down. He took 3 minutes on that move and started to slow down a little bit more in each move. Took about a minute and a half here and another couple of minutes on this last move, knight to g5. So your thoughts on the time management as we see Hikaru Nakamura on camera, Robert, and what's that suggestive of?
I think he also might be slowing down to look at his teammates' boards. And that's one of the critical things here that's different from when you just watch Hikaru Nakamura dominate players like me on the internet versus a team event where you say, wait a sec, let's see how my teammates are. We need 2.5 points. We can't tie this match. We need 2.5. So slowing down will help him evaluate, do I need to go for more? Or can I play solidly? And if Ding Liren also plays solidly, we just have a sort of even type of game. But I don't think this game is even. I like Black's position here. I think what Hikaru has done is really smart. And a knight on g3 tends not to be a very good piece when you can mobilize your pawn structure as Black. h5, h4 is the type of idea that comes to mind, just kicking that knight out from its square. And it's not really risky in the sense that sometimes you push pawns in front of your king and you regret it. But here is not one of those examples. And one more thing that I failed to mention earlier is knight a5 for Black. If you want just the bishop pair, you can play knight a5 at some moment.
And you called it. Hashtag Grandmaster Robert Hess playing Guess the Move today. But speaking of things you might want, Black might want the bishop pair, but we got to go over to Fabiano Caruana versus Wei Yi because Fabiano might want himself a pawn on c7. What has happened here? I was spying that board, and I'm wondering if there's just a free pawn about to fall. Okay, e6 was chosen. You sort of suggested that if you don't want to slow development, Robert highlighted that b4 might be a problem here, everyone, because of the knight losing squares. e6 is the other approach. The risk is the opening of the d file might have just hung. Yeah, and Fabiano has just stolen a pawn, everyone.
Yeah, that's a free one. And sometimes when you trade queens, you liquidate, you feel like even though I've given up a pawn, I have more space for my pieces, I can hold off my opponent. But the key to something like this is this bishop on g7, because that bishop is lining up against the b2 pawn, but now bishop e5 was played. So what Fabiano very smartly is doing is saying, play knight c6, move backwards, and then I can move my bishop again as is needed. So I'm dragging your piece from a potential threatening one into c4. Maybe drawing it back to c6 is helpful for white, at least in Fabiano Caruana's opinion. And a pawn is a pawn here. I don't see an easy way for Black to claim and justify that I have full compensation. I don't think it's sufficient here. I think that white surely is better.
I agree, and I love your point about just the tempies you can gain. I think sometimes those are the most instructive points that you let your opponent make a threat sometimes, because is the knight really better here than it was on a5, blocking the rook, maybe with potential to go into c4? The answer is no, and now the bishop could go to a number of squares. You could even relocate it to this diagonal if you really want, or you can just back up this way or find another move. So interesting stuff. Fabiano plays bishop e5. We also see that he's just playing quickly, and this has been something we've talked about and applauded him for the entire event, because along with Hikaru Nakamura, he's been leading Team USA, the most consistent player, and he won both games on board 2 against China previously, against Wang Hao, and that's why he's probably playing Wei Yi. But he's been underrated in terms of his clock management, consistently up on time against everybody he's played in this event.
And I think he's been unfairly criticized for many years now about how he's not the best rapid and blitz player and all this stuff. It's easy to look average when everybody else around you is extraordinary. And so when he plays in the Grand Chess Tour,
is that my
excuse
too? Is that my excuse too, by the way? Sorry, go ahead.
No, you need many more excuses than that one. But for Fabiano, he tends to finish in the middle of the pack or maybe even lower in the standings in those type of events. But then you put him on board 2, and he just goes to town. He crushes everybody in his path. And unfortunately for Wei Yi, he's the newest obstacle in Fabiano's way of scoring more points.
Yeah, it's what Fabi's been doing on board too. And you and I talked about it very much in the beginning of this event, and then we, got distracted with other storylines, as happens. But one of the things we talked about, putting Nakamura on board one was not an accident for Team USA. Not just because Hikaru is a higher rated rapid player and very experienced, but Hikaru tends to be very resourceful and persevere. His personality is also very pesky, I think, for some of the top players. But regardless of his ability to hold, what it did was it put Fabiano on board two, where he's been able to score even more points. And I know we want to say every one of these guys could be a board two, board one, but it is a little different when you put arguably the strongest human being on the planet after Magnus Carlsen on board two. I think it's been a big advantage for Team USA, and we'll see if it pays off.
And for Hikaru Nakamura, it's what you call taking one for the team, right? Hikaru Nakamura would score more points on board two than he would on board one, but that's often the sacrifice you need to make when you're in a team event. Is you need to hold down that top board. Hikaru Nakamura has done a great job of doing just that. And, Fabiano Caruana looking in excellent shape in this position against Wei Yi.
Speaking of holding it down, we go to board three, the three-headed monster that is really four-headed monster. Leonardo Dominguez-Perez did not have his best event, but he's also one of the big four here in the United States these days. But Wesley So, another guy that could be a board one or board two, and he's now a board three facing off against Yu Yang-Yi. Might have been exactly what people needed. We asked the daily question, what would it take to slow down China? Because Yu Yang-Yi has been a wrecking crew by himself, a single-man wrecking crew. But Wesley So beat him yesterday, and now Wesley is, well, it's a pretty balanced position. I mean, one thing we can say is the structure has changed so that both sides now have the same weak pawns. That's interesting. Let's see what happened there. The bishop came to d2, and after the capture, we had a trade on c3. Both sides naturally developing their pieces, and here we are in a very, very equal-looking middle game.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the placement of the pawns. I'm thinking about the placement of the pieces. The bishop on g2 is such a strong bishop, right? It's aiming at the pawn on c6. It's on its best diagonal. The bishop on e7, I mean, it leaves something to be desired. The knight on a6, the bishop on c. I just think that white's pieces are better coordinated here, which is why I would say that white is slightly better. Ideas like queen e4 come to mind, hitting c6, hitting e5. So black's pawns feel easier to attack, and white's feel quite safe. And so that's why I would say that white's slightly better. Nothing major.
Right.
I think black just has a kind of a critical decision at this moment of actually what move do you even play here? And as I look at the position, Danny, I'm struggling to come up with the answer because of these pawns being a little bit vulnerable. But I mean, maybe I'm kind of overreacting just because white is a little bit ahead in development, and it just feels like more harmonious piece placement.
Yeah, I don't have a more logical move than something like bishop to e6. At least knight to g5 isn't exactly possible right away. But note that on the last move, Yu Yang-Yi took 4 minutes before playing the move queen to c2. These are some of the finer details we really get to focus on now when we don't have 12 games going crazy throughout the main event, right? We're looking a little more about clock management, what that's suggestive of. Queen to c2 is a move that takes away the square of f5 for the bishop and gets off the b file for Tempe. But clearly it's throwing Wesley off a little bit. He doesn't quite know what he wants his plan of development to be.
And I don't think there is a clear plan necessarily for Wesley, and that's why queen c2 is so nice, because it doesn't give black an obvious move.
What is your move on bishop e6 for white?
On bishop e6, I might play rook to b1, rook fb1. I don't want to hang my a2 pawn. Oh, actually, I'm not hanging it, but just go to the b file.
Okay.
And,
maybe we challenge, I don't know, somehow staying a little equal here.
Yeah, I'm not saying black's in any sort of danger necessarily, and it's probably just fine in this case. But I will play knight g5. I think I have to, right?
At
if
some
you put
point,
bishop on e6,
that's the key.
I want the two
do
bishops.
I really want to lose the bishop pair? That's tough, right? Now black is down the bishop pair.
Exactly, and then my bishop can go e7 to d6, and there are some squares that I can take advantage of. But Danny, he chooses a different move, queen c7, and after an extensive think there, I mean, it's a retreating move. Queen e4 still comes to mind as a way to hit e5. But I'm going to be honest with you, my attention has been drawn back to the Hikaru Nakamura game because a lot has happened.
Okay, well then let's go there. Let's back this thing up. We've got the 4-board view up, as you can see. All 4 games rolling. A quick shout out, go to chess.com and pull them all up yourself. But as Robert said, we're headed back to board 1. Transitions are occurring. Exchanges have occurred. Pieces are off the board. Let's bring up the focus there to Hikaru Nakamura and Ding Liren Hikaru's still in a pretty good spot. The opening of the position, instinctively, Robert, I can't feel anything but black is doing better here than you see in some of these mainline Italians.
This looks really good for black. You have control of the A file. You have some potential on the king side, but it's not like white doesn't have plans of his own, because if you allow me to, say, play c4 and then start pushing my kingside pawns where I have an extra pawn on the E through H files, that black king is kind of all alone there. The queen on f6 is doing a good job, but if that bishop gets the full length of diagonal, you could see some problems. Not to mention E5. If you give white a free move, that's actually a very big threat in some lines, because the D pawn is pinned to the bishop and things like that. So you have to make it work. These are just ideas that are coming to my mind, but I think that black is better, but you have to tread carefully, because you don't have all day to just sit on the position. It's not one of those kind of advantages. I think it's a dynamic advantage. And I mean, bishop c6 sort of comes to mind. Just poke at e4, get that bishop off a hanging square. But
yeah, it's a tricky position still, because even if you are happy as black, we see Hikaru kind of giving pause to think. He knows this is a critical one, because you'd love to go in for lines like this and call e5's bluff and just keep playing sharp moves to see where it goes. But it feels very scary if white gets e6. That's probably, apparently it's not the problem. But it's crazy to think you would go for some line like this and allow the pass pawn. God, it feels so dangerous. But it could, I mean, just you feel the dynamic pressure that black possesses with the bishop pair and the second rank control here.
Yeah, because open files, open position favors bishops. So that's why, as soon as you push a pawn, you're probably leaving something behind. And these bishops, as you see in the position we're analyzing, looks quite good. But in the live board, Hikaru is sitting and thinking here. It is a tough decision. Do you start with rook a2 to stop c4? Do you allow the c4 move and play rook a2 later? Do you move your queen out of the way to start with? Can I play queen g5 here and say, now I might have some bishop e3, bishop f4, rerouting this bishop into the position. So black has options here. So I do really like Hikaru's position, but I think that Dingley Ren, he's very capable of just that counter strike. And if you're not careful, that moment happens and then your position falls apart.
Well, the games have all reached this sort of criddle game. That's criddle game. TM just invented that. They've reached the criddle game. Let's bring up our four-board view of the criddle game. And we've got the middle game, jokes aside, critical positions on all boards, and exciting stuff. I think from a match strategy, we've got the two board ones on camera as we look at all four boards. It's kind of going okay for Team USA in the sense that if everyone else can at least hold, Fabiano Caruana on board two. That's where they've been getting their dubs, and he's up a pawn against Wei Yi and an advantage for white.
Yeah, I'm looking at these boards. The board 4, not a symmetrical pawn structure because white has a pawn on g3, but it's looking pretty level. The Fabiano game, he's still up a pawn. Have to like his chances there. Board 3, as we have this bird's eye view, looking nice for Yu Yangyi, who actually brought the queen to e4 over to c4. And look at that knight on b8, Danny. That went from a6 back to b8. So I don't know where we should focus, but all these
we'll head over there real quick. Hikaru did play rook a2, and I think that game is going to get our focus, not just because it's the board one battle, two of the biggest stars in the match, but it looks like it's going to get real spicy here. But this move, bishop a6, was quickly met by queen to e6. Interesting stuff. White certainly has a little bit of an edge, but how does black solve the development problems now? That's the worry, is that I can't get my pieces out right now unless I'm willing to go back to c8 and kind of repeat.
Wait, did he also just give up the e2 pawn? So what's his idea? Because bishop takes e2 is a pawn.
A pawn is a pawn.
What is his idea here? There must be something. Like, is he just going to go rook d2 and say, all right, you're actually helping me double on the d file. Your knight on b8, rook on 8, still stuck over here. But something... Would you take that pawn, Danny? He did take it.
Oh, he did? Wow. Yeah. Well, he's and rook d2 was quickly answered, so that was apparently the answer. Yu Yangyi believing in the compensation here. It's a very, very dangerous approach, and it's interesting that black is under pressure here. You can tell white does have pressure just from the way the engines evaluate this. It's still a little bit better for white, as you can see, despite the pawn sack, but from a practical point of view, you kind of steal that pawn and ask questions later. Right now, you're in a hold mode. If you can just get your pieces developed before anything bad happens, that pawn might be everything you need to draw.
And the ideas that are coming to my mind for white, well, rook AD1, a supernatural move here, and then knight h4, just to maybe get my knight into f5, put pressure on c6. Of course, rook d7 would be a threat if you allow me to do that, but I imagine that black will have to play bishop c8 back and just defend the 7th ring. But look at what black's doing, right? You went bishop c8 to a6, take on e2, back to a6, back to c8. This, I mean,
well, and white can even do this, and just to point out the obvious, that if you keep attacking, now that white has a huge edge, I think at some point maybe this queen comes over to this side of the board. You still can't develop your knight because d7 is under pressure. I mean, white's going to have an initiative here, so for sure this is going to be a dangerous game for Wesley So.
I agree. And Yu Yang-Yi has been playing exceptionally all tournament, and he lost to Wesley yesterday. So, on a personal note, Danny,
yep.
he wants to beat Wesley.
Yep. Well, Yu Yang-Yi has been an MVP for China. I mean, just remind everybody, Yu Yang-Yi has been the man, despite transmitting from the same old school Wi-Fi that Obi-Wan Kenobi did, and that hasn't really held his webcam back at all. So. No, I mean, he really has been. He's going to bring the pressure against Wesley. But if I was Team USA and I was relying on a guy to play some defense, Wesley is super technical. You and I talk about it all the time. You even hear it in the interviews, right, Robert? Yesterday, we ask him questions, and you can tell the lack of emotion that Wesley plays with. He just says things offhandedly, like, I don't really think about the result at all in the middle of the game. I think it clouds your vision and prevents you from being objective. He says things that it's the way that I aspire to be and will never be. Non-emotional. Like, Wesley is just so technical, so accurate, and I think it helps him defend tough spots.
It does. And, he's in a tough, knight h4 was played. I like that move. It's one of the ideas. I don't know the exact move order, which was best, but I was saying rook d1, knight h4, things like this. We both like Yu Yang-Yi's position. Danny, I think we should just maybe show quickly just the boards in boards 4 and 2, because I do want to go back to Hikaru's game and versus Dingley Ren in a second. But I just want to, give everybody just what's going on board 4. We have a queen and 2 minor piece endgame between Hou Yifan and Irina. And finally, at long last, how you mentioned c5 so long ago is the one way to mix things up? It finally happens.
Well, the risk for Hou Yifan is d5 could become weak. But now with pieces off the board, I think c5 is a sign that black wants to get at least a little bit of winning chances. You called it, partner. You said Yifan needs to at least keep the option of playing for a win alive, depending on what happens with her teammates. And I think c5 says, look, I know I'm not playing for a draw in this endgame. I got to create something here against Irina. And as you said, board 2, Fabiano's still up a pawn. It is a clear pawn against Wei Yi, no matter how you look at it. I don't think there's any excuses there. But we got to go back to number 1, as you said, Hikaru Nakamura and Dingley Ren, because things have turned around there in the opposite direction now for Hikaru. He brought the rook into a2 just moments ago. We're gonna show that right there. He brought the rook into a2. Rook e2 was the response, and then he played queen e7. Interesting. He backs up. Here comes c4 with the threat of f6. That's the kind of dangerous move that'll blow open your king side. So Hikaru plays f6 himself. But now the knight comes in to the newly weakened light squares. So Dingley Ren trying to work it, as they say, with no diggity, and he's getting a little bit of an edge here now against Hikaru for the first time.
And look at that. He lifted his rook to d3 because that rook will likely go over to g3. But don't count black out so fast, because look at the king on h2, the knight on f4. Maybe this bishop on b6 will go to c7 and play deep for d5. Because if you're not tactically alert, that happens and your whole position collapses because of the knight hanging in behind it, the king. So that's one idea that's coming to mind, is a defensive one for black. But let's say black just plays king to h7, and if you can somehow pile up pressure on g7, just bring my rook over to g8. I'm not sure that black's position is so bad. Although, Danny, you and I, we look at this, we're just like, okay, white is sort of playing with a free hand because you've clamped down on all of the pawn breaks that black typically relies on.
Yep.
So
meaning d5 is off the agenda. b5 is kind of non-existent, right? Although that's a long-term idea to keep in mind too, right? I should mention that, because if this bishop gets out of the way, whether you get d5 as a knockout punch or not, remember, black does have the bishop pair, which if at some point the light squares are pried open, suddenly I kind of like that idea as a long-term chance for black's pieces. Yeah,
the downside of playing b5 is that it gives white the d5 square, so you'll take once on b5 and try to get d5. But that is a long-term idea that, if you could support it with a rook, and then play b5, you're opening up an attack on the b3 square. So that is something that Hikaru can hope for, but it just feels like now Ding Liren is calling the shot. So earlier, Hikaru kind of liked his position. He controlled the A file, but now the A file is proving to be meaningless. You know, you have A1 under control. A2 is nothing to write home about. So somehow this has turned around, at least in terms of who it feels easier to play with.
Right. Wow. Well, you know what's super easy to do as well? Whoa. Knight G6? What? Right away, despite allowing D5?
That's what I'm looking for. But I guess Bishop G6, Rook takes G6 is his plan, so.
Wow, but you see Hikaru kind of zoning in here. That's a very focused Hikaru face there. That is zero distractions, not one you always see when he's streaming. Looking deep at the position. I think if he just moves the queen, doesn't that pose more problems for white? You put the queen on E8 or even D8, and here comes D5 in a lot of positions.
Yeah, that looks very scary because D5 is happening no matter if it's a pin on the rook or if the rook just remains there, because there's you have to move your king out the way and then D5. But maybe D5 is now with E5, and so white actually is inching closer to that black king.
Interesting.
This is a really tough decision, Danny, because we have an analysis board. We can just make moves and take them back. But if you're anticipating D5 is now with E5 and your king side is being blown open, that will cause you serious pause.
But at the same time, it almost feels like a no-brainer to not take the knight, because if you take the knight and the rook comes in, I feel like things are only going to get more scary for black. And maybe not. Maybe, I guess, from a match strategy point of view, he says, well, if I can defend that, getting a few more pieces off the board, getting to an endgame that might be hard for black to lose. But I don't think Hikaru wants to defend that way. I think that going to an endgame anyway doesn't mean no losing chances, especially if you have a bunch of potential targets on the dark squares. You're parting with your bishop pair. I feel like Hikaru is going to want to keep keep the pieces on the board here and just move the lady to safety.
Yeah, he's the way he's been thinking. I've just seen him move. He's a lot of different facial expressions. His head placement is going all over the place, and that said, just to he knows and he's aware how critical. Oh, there's a shake. You see that shake? Head shake.
That's Hikaru Nakamura. Head shake number 6. I haven't seen it in months. He's deep in thought right now. He's 20 moves deep. He's not even looking at the chessboard. He sees the matrix. Code is running. Hikaru is calculating deeply here, and also apparently shampooing regularly. Very, very healthy head.
Well, he is trying to figure this one out, and Queen D8. I like your move, Danny. Yep. I think that Hikaru ultimately will play it, but there's something he's uncertain about, and I really feel like it revolves around black playing D5, and he does take on G6. But you can tell he regretted it. He didn't want to do it.
He kind of was like, I don't want to do this, right? So maybe he just got a little nervous about some of the pressure with the pieces there, which is understandable. Obviously, Ding recaptures with the rook instantly. Whoa, D5 check. Here we go. This E5 is going to get spicy. That is a surprising move, Robert, because what does he see about F6? I'm like, that's the exact opposite move you want to make, because if I move the king, now D5 and F6 are hanging, but what does black have here?
Well, I guess, I just saw the bar drop. I don't know exactly why, but I
think there's a trick on H2. Maybe that's what he wants. I don't have the moves either. Just
good.
No,
you got it. D4. Because you can't take me on D4.
You have a double attack. Boom, and the computer agrees with Mr. Hess. What?
Wait, go forward just one more move. So Bishop B4, Queen D6, you have Queen G1, thinking you're protecting both. Rook A1.
You don't have to ask me twice to deliver that blow on the board.
The queen is overloaded.
That's how you get things done. Hikaru spies something on the dark squares here, which is why he surprised us and took G6 with D5 check. I think
E5.
I think this could get wild very quickly.
You have to play E5 as white.
But that's a pawn. I want it.
You can't take that.
I know. I hate F6. I hate when you do that. If I take, they have F6, everybody. That's Robert's idea.
Man, and Hikaru's he's been shaking his head, but he's doing it both to give himself confidence, inspire himself, but also he has this quizzical look, like, is this actually going to be good for me? He's looking at his other boards. I recognize that.
He's looking at the teammates' boards, yeah.
Yep. So maybe we should do the same while
let's bring up the bird's eye view and take a step back as this Action continues to roll here. More than 25, almost 26,000 of you with us now across a ton of different platforms. If you haven't yet, hit that follow button. You might be finding chess for the first time on one of these content-consuming portals, that's a fancy word for things like Twitch and YouTube. Content-consuming portal, man. Hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, and get more chess. So, yeah, this game is super exciting. We've still got Hikaru and Ding on camera. The Yu Yang Yi game's interesting if Wesley is holding that. Fabiano's the only person really in control for Team USA. And Yifan, I think we got to check back there one more time here. Let's head over to Yifan's game. We haven't looked at it in a long time. Because even though it's not the most exciting game, which is partly why it has been a little neglected, the structure has changed finally. So what long-term chances do you really give Black with the imbalance of the bishop versus the knight? The queen is slightly more active for Black. What are your thoughts here?
For me, it's about the activity of the queen, because I would love to capture on d4 and put my queen on e2, and she does just that. So, I mean, she's trying to get active immediately. And if you can tie your opponent's pieces down and give no sort of counterplay, then you can build on your position. So, for example, knight takes d4 by white will likely be met by just knight takes d4. And after c4, I'm thinking queen e2, but now I'm noticing queen f5 for white. You have this typical drawing mechanism. Exactly. Just go on a yo-yo string between c8 and f5, and you're set holding the draw because there's nothing Black can do to stop it.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Well, I mean, Irina's thinking, wait, and we have seen the transition. The trade is on the board, so this is getting closer and closer to what will have to be seen as a successful result for Team USA. I mean, Irina Krush playing against the highest-rated women's player on the planet, active players as far as they go, the second best of all time, I think, behind Judith Polgar. No one really denies that at this point. So the draw is a win for Team USA, at least from the perspective of the match.
Right, and I think that white still has something to prove just because Black's queen is better placed. Look at the queen on b5 attacking b2, the queen on b1 protecting. So you just hear those verbs there. Black is the more aggressive player right now, but there's so few pieces remaining that it feels like Irina's chances are good to hold, and she's doing well on the clock. And, we have two endgames this round. We have this one and the Fabiano endgame, which is becoming less clear to me.
Let's head over to that, because the Fabiano endgame, I spied the board. I don't know if you saw me off camera. Maybe that's why you called for it, because I'm like, wait, how do you deal with the pin on the e-file? And not only is... Wait, Fabi's neglecting that because apparently the bishop is defended. He's going and getting another pawn, which, I don't know, that feels a little scary here. Somehow you're starting to feel a little frisky about some tactics.
Well, you can take on e5 with the knight because you're not actually hanging your rook, because f3 falls the check. So that would force white to recapture on e5 in some way, or you can just play rook a8 to start with. I'm trying to figure out the nuances here. Like, do I take on e5? Do I leave that for the time being, play rook a8? Because behind the knight on a7 is a pawn on a2 that I will gladly capture. But if I can exploit the pin that you first referenced, I think that's where your attention was, Danny.
Yeah.
Like, somehow a knight takes e5 does feel like, there should be something tactically for, and actually knight e5, if you take back with the knight on e5, don't I have rook c7?
Double attack on the a7 knight and the e7 square. You sure do.
Well, you go knight b5, I go rook c5, and double attacking your knights
even
directly.
Better. Well, and I was looking for ways to exploit the pin knight with the bishop. It's just very typical tactical ideas. You see them in King's Indians all the time. But maybe there's something even more. I mean, when we first came here, by the way, we saw Fabiano kind of head in hand, and that wasn't the focused kind of two hands, famous pictures you see of him. I don't think he was thrilled with how we approached this position.
Yeah, it does feel like his advantage is not nearly as great as it once was, but it still should be good for white. But you can hear it, like the question in my voice. Like,
yeah, your voice gets high when you're nervous. I know that. All right, let's head over to Hikaru and Dingley Ren, because speaking of getting nervous, is white getting nervous about an exchange sack on b2 followed by some dark square dominance?
It's a very good question, because if you can do that and go for the mating attack we mentioned earlier on the h2 square, that would be great. But I mean, do you have to go king h1 here? I feel like king h1 is the prudent move, but
Hikaru is deep in thought here. Dingley Ren shuffling more than you normally see. I mean, the physical manifestation is kind of obvious that he's a little nervous. We almost, I feel like we're normally seeing a stoic, Dingley Wren, one to make Marcus Aurelius proud, but not here.
Okay, he takes on d5.
Whoa.
Yeah, is your rook takes b2 move possible now? No, because I guess at the end of that, if you bishop takes e5, I go rook takes e5, and it's too many.
Yeah, there's too many. I mean, I don't even know what happens in the end game. I assume only white can win, but it might be a draw. That's the thing. If Hikaru kind of wants a draw, is this a way to get it? I don't know. Risky.
Yeah, but it feels like Hikaru has the sort of upper hand between the two players at the moment. So just recapturing on d5 is what he did. And you still have this question for Ding. Like, I would move my king. And this is one of those difficult decisions, Danny, where you want to play king g1 in anticipation of queens getting off the board and your king being close to the center. But with queens and a dark square bishop on the board, putting yourself in a diagonal. What?
Rook e3. Dingley Wren is trying to come over to the g file, but that is a move that the computers clearly didn't like. I have to love the opportunity to give up the exchange. And, not my rook, so let's do it.
Is his idea after queen takes b2, bishop takes e5 check, you can go g3 or something? Like,
what? You're giving me the queen for the 7th rank, I guess. Okay, interesting.
Well, I also have more material, so if we can trade queens in that manner. I mean, this
position is... I mean, black has a pawn for the exchange. Feels super dangerous for white, right? I mean, and what are the chances you get an attack now that you took away your own g3 square? I mean, you have to love black there.
I do. I really like black's position.
I almost want to take with the pawn here and just see what happens with a couple of pawns and blow things open. Okay, apparently that's a horrible idea. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dan.
It's funny because...
Apparently you can just come over here. Okay, good chalk. Good chalk. Well, that's... I wanted to sack the exchange, but... There you go.
I still think that sacking the exchange can be good for black, but you just have to kind of concretely figure it out. You don't want to take it and then be like, wait a second, where is my plan for the advantage?
Hikaru's shaking his head a little bit. Robert, sorry to interrupt you, but I think we should head over to the Yu Young-yi versus Wesley So game because we have crazy liftoff there. A knight is on g5 with check.
Whoa.
Sacrificing all in for the attack. Hikaru's shaking his head like... I bet that's not necessarily because he thinks Wesley's lost, as he's looking at that like, what is going on in that game?
Well, black decided not to develop the queen side, although that bishop has made many moves this game. And the knight at one point was on a6, but black's queen side stuck at home for the time being. And knight g5 check. I mean, can you take that knight? Like, it scares me to consider it.
You might have to. Let's see what happens. Like I said, not my king.
So take back and bishop e6.
Okay.
And the point is, if you have queen h4 check, I thought I have rook h6, but the bar is...
No, you're probably right.
But there's a better move than queen h4. I mean, I'm just watching the bar go up and down.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. It's like guess the bar.
Queen e2, Danny.
Queen e2 heads over to h5, and now you've got me. That's the key. And just to show everybody, I mean, okay, a move like this or even rook f8 pretty much fails to the same point. You check and play g6, and Bob's your uncle over here. So, okay. Wow. Okay, so bishop e6, not a move that's possible. I wonder if even taking the knight is really what you'd want to do. This is very, very nerve-wracking for Wesley So. Obviously, when you're down in development like this, you feel like you're down multiple pieces. So I really don't give much stock except for the blunders we're making, and when the eval bar tells me I'm wrong, I do listen to it. But other than that, I don't really give the evaluation much stock because I think this position is very deep. And obviously black is going to be favored slightly right now, everybody, because of the material. But this is a game where you could see a horizon effect, like somehow with a little bit of time, the engine really starts to understand that black is playing down 3 pieces and Alpha Zero is hungry for an attack.
It's hard to imagine that Wesley came into today's game wanting to have this kind of position where it looks like all of white's pieces are on their optimal squares and black hasn't developed. And it feels like they're just, even if the engine somehow finds a way out of this, practically speaking, with just a couple minutes on your clock, you're getting into a blitz game. Your king is about to be blitzed as well. I just don't know how black survives this.
Let's keep these two guys on camera on the board right here. I'm going to flash the board quickly to Irina Krush's game with Hoi Fan because I think we might be moments away from our first result. I think Irina should be able to get a draw over there. Ifan goes in to take the pawn on b2, kind of at the risk of knowing there's going to be a draw. Wait, we have a first result, and it's not this game. Back this thing up quickly. Hikaru Nakamura and Ding Liren have drawn their game. I think Hikaru knew he was better, and so offered the draw to flex a little bit on the match position because he thinks Fabiano's going to win.
But if he thinks he's better, that doesn't make any sense to make a draw here.
I'm a little surprised because I think at this point Hikaru maybe has played the best game overall for Team USA, and maybe he should have kept pushing because he's doing great. Okay, but they have drawn. I think Irina Krush and Hoi Fan will draw, which means it's going to come down to these board 2 and board 3 battles. Wesley So is on the clock. Oh, no, he's not on the clock. He took the knight. Okay, let's go back here. We could go to both games, but I think we got to go here before we go to Fabiano's game.
And there must be... Oh,
whoa,
so
that's what
G6.
happens. That's what happens when you play a tough position. You can't defend all the threats.
And here, there's just, what is the move? Because you have what looks like a great... bishop d5. Take away the g8 square and get your queen to h4. That looks pretty good.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
I mean, bishop d5, you can't take my bishop because your pawn is pinned to your queen. And I'm threatening queen h4 check with mating ideas.
Now, you're not exactly threatening it because I still have your rook h6 idea you pointed out earlier.
I guess you do. But it's even putting my bishop on f7 feels like an issue.
I do not want to play black's position here. Don't get me wrong. but I don't see an exact knockout blow just yet. Bishop d5 has been played. It's on the board.
So what does black even respond with here?
Yeah, and the crazy risk here is that, remember, China does win on a draw, so I think that's why we were surprised. It felt like Hikaru Nakamura was outplaying Ding Liren and maybe getting winning chances as black. We'll see if it proves to be match strategy correct. I think Hikaru thinks that, at least one of Wesley and Fabiano can hold and the other one can win.
Maybe Hikaru's position was just equal. Maybe it was just equal. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. There's not really doubt in my mind that he's an exceptional player. He wasn't thinking that about the other board chances. He probably just acknowledged that his game was about to peter out, and so it was just going to be a dead draw.
Well, and I think psychologically getting a draw early, maybe that helps his teammates. So Hikaru getting a draw kind of lets them know.
Danny, I love you, man, but I just can't see a way a draw helps Team USA in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly, because China has draw odds, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it, and it's going to be nerve-wracking here down the stretch. Let's go to Fabiano Caruana's game as Wesley tries to figure out how to deal with bishop d5. Fabiano is up a pawn, but I don't know that his winning chances are better than they were earlier. Robert, your thoughts?
Look at that rook on c2. It's so active there. And what White would love to do is go after the f7 pawn, because if you can pile up pressure there and you can even create an attack, then black could be in some trouble. And that's why with black on the move right now, and actually only 2 minutes, Wei Yi's considering, do I take on b2 or does that allow some sort of rook d7 or rook d8 and then rook to d7? Because actually that could be a nice little finesse.
And the other thing is the time pressure, right? So Fabi's bringing the practical noise, if you will, in terms of the potential of an attack. We know the rook and knight can be super dangerous together with mating nets, and the fact that Wei Yi doesn't have a ton of time on the clock here.
And Danny, rook takes b2 should be meant by rook d8, because it's a very important point. You draw the king to f8, so then when you go back to d7, you can take on f7 with check at the right moment.
Ah, dirty dog. Classic Hess. Okay, by the way, we've seen this exact line on the board. Bobby working it. That's how the rook and knight do things. That's actually very, very tough to deal with. I mean, this is better in a lot of ways if you're trying to get a win as white than anything you might try to do with an extra pawn on the queen side, because at least from a practical perspective, the king under pressure, this is such a hard position to find accurate moves. Maybe rook e2 wasn't one. You can take with check, Robert, and then play rook back to e7 because king f8 fails to knight takes g6 check.
Actually, no matter what you do, you can play knight takes g6. That's a great point. A great find there.
Oh, boomtown. And you're threatening knight takes g6 because you've already gained a tempo.
Wow. There aren't that many pawns remaining, though. So that's the one downside of if you trade rooks there, that if that black king quickly comes to, say, g6 and attacks the g5 pawn, there's opportunity for black to continue liquidating and then eventually sacrifice the knight for remaining pawns. But that's a far down the road approach that Wei doesn't really want to rely on.
Wow. Okay, well, if you're just joining us yet again, we are in the Superfinal Sunday here in the first ever FIDE Online Nations Cup. We've got almost 30,000 of you. We've crossed 30,000 live viewers across all platforms. We got about 5,500 on YouTube, almost 25K here on Twitch. And if you're tuning in from Facebook, Periscope, and Mixer, you're not neglected. We love you too.
Danny, we have to go to the not the Fabiano Caruana.
Yeah, the Wesley So game, right?
Yeah, this
is getting nuts, and that's the one that's turning around in the favor of Team China very, very quickly. This is getting scary, and it might put Irina Krush in a position where she has to play for a win.
And that doesn't, I mean, she's trying her best, and it looks like that position is about level. But look at this one, the bishop on e4, pinning the rook on g6 to the king on h7. There are many ideas for white, including a quick queen f7, piling up pressure on that pinned rook, king to g2 with rook h1, checkmating ideas to follow. Also on the agenda. Favorite. Oh man, this is
going to be a victory. Team China is going to score the first dub here. Wesley is running up against the train that has been Yu Young-yi all event. The guy has been unstoppable. The only loss he had was to Wesley yesterday, but Yu Young-yi said, "Don't poke the bear. The bear bites back."
And he is on the China Pandas Pro Chess League team, so the bear definitely does poke back. And what do you do now? Because I would not play bishop takes g6. And I think it's an important lesson for everybody watching.
Yep.
The rook isn't going anywhere. It's pinned. So unless you have a forcing checkmate, and there's rook to d6, I think that was a good move. Unless you had a forcing checkmate, there was no need. Now king g2, threatening rook h1 check. Oh, man. Everything working well for white in this position. And black, look at the queen side. That's what it all came down to.
I mean, this is a super instructive game, a heartbreaker for Team USA, but we know this will probably be getting some video game of the day reviews by those covering the event, because this is a God Mator, and guys at our channel, youtube.com/chess. Subscribe if you haven't. This is an instructive battle. I mean, Yu Young-yi, king g2. I expect we might even see a resigns here. Wesley shakes his head. What a tough game. And that means it's all going to come down. Fabiano has to convert, no options. And Irina Krush, to save Team USA, would have to find a way to beat former women's world champion Hou Yifan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking from board to board here, Danny, and this one is a clear win at this point for Team China, and Wesley shaking his head. And, Wesley shouldn't be faulted. I mean, this is a tough position to be in, not just in terms of chess position, but as a team. You need to score more than your opponent. You can't tie. You need to score more. And so he needs to hold with black. Of course, that was what he intended to do. But when Wei Yi is in this form, he can beat anybody on the planet. I don't care if you're Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabian, whoever you want to bring up. The way he's played all tournament has been phenomenal.
Yep. Out of control chess, honestly. It's not just that he's been winning games. If you have not followed this event as closely as you should, check out the video replays of previous rounds. Back up and watch our VODs. Yu Young-yi has won one brilliant game after another, and this one is no exception. Danny, that's it. That's it. Irina Krush not able to get the victory. I was spying it. She has drawn her game to flash the board. Not a bad result you would think coming in, but because of the draw previously between Hikaru Nakamura and Ding Liren, we can officially say that, and that was the draw here, we can officially say that if Yu Young-yi wins this game, China wins the Online Nations Cup.
And look at this last move. He took the pawn on f3 and simply brought his king back to g2 and saying, go ahead, take my rook on d1 if you really want it, because the material is not important. It's king safety. And after bishop takes d1, I simply play rook takes d1 back, threatening rook h1 checkmate. Your rook on g6 is still pinned, and white's just completely winning.
Well, we knew they had a tough task coming in, having to beat China, but a tied match would not be good enough, despite the fact that Fabiano Caruana is going to win that game over there with Wei Yi. It doesn't seem like a position that they can hold, and ultimately, it won't be enough even with a tied 2-2 match. But let's see Yu Young-yi finish this off. Yes, he does. Wesley So resigns. Book it, ladies and gentlemen. China has won the first ever FIDE Online Nations Cup.
And Yu Young-yi with the fist pump there. He is ecstatic about that game. He played a wonderful tournament, and especially to go off on that note there, getting his revenge. He lost in the final round to Wesley. So he said, well, payback hurts. That's really not the way they usually use that expression, but we're on a PG-friendly show.
Well, we've got to use that. We've got to show the game one more time. We'll get to the FIDE game very, very quickly here, but this was the game that won the event, so no game replay could be more important. Started with this amazing pawn sack on e2, and then the initiative, the rooks grabbing the file, the attack on the king, knight g5 check, the piece sack. Yu Young Yi is out of control, and he wins a brilliant game to win the Online Nations Cup. Wow.
I mean, before this match started, I was giving my MVP, our daily question, who's the most valuable player, to Fabiano Caruana.
I think Yu Young Yi just answered the daily question.
Although Fabiano Caruana winning his game doesn't really change my mind about the fact that he's scoring 7.5 out of 9 across his games, and is the reason in many respects why Team USA is here. But it's hard to blame any player, and I know some people will say, well, Wesley lost, so it's his fault, or Hikaru didn't play on his fault. I mean, you're playing Team China. They're
good. They're good.
They're amazing. They're just amazing, and you have to give Team China just all the respect that they've earned from their play in this event. I don't think that you could have done too much differently for Team USA. Of course, not losing a game, but that's advice to give everybody, right? Like, if you don't lose, well, you don't lose. Duh. But Yu Young Yi like this is just, he's on fire.
Yep. Remind everybody, China had the best record throughout the main event that we've been covering all week here, which is why they have draw odds in this awesome super final. Shout out to all 30,000 of you that are with us here to bring this Sunday super event on this very happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there to a close. But Fabiano, despite likely looking like he's playing a great game, like you said, he's the only person in the event, or not in the event, at least playing in the super final here, who hasn't lost. No, that's not true. A couple other people haven't lost, but I guess in regards to the amount of games he's played, right? You gave that score earlier in terms of the epic points he's putting up, and Fabi's about to get another win.
Yeah, I'm just still thinking about this overall, and I see the chat going crazy about not enjoying, draw odds are bad. I mean, it's essentially, if you're playing the last round of a tournament and there's no super final, then it's you're half point back or whatever. You still need to win. So it's just like if it was the end of a tournament, but came down to one match. Everybody knew what was at stake and how to get the win. And I mean, I just have to say credit again to Team China. They've already won this match by virtue of the fact that a 2-2 tie is a victory for them. And so, Danny, I don't know what more can be said.
Nothing more to say, right? They've been the best team throughout the event. USA also had a fantastic event. They added to their prize pool just by making the super final. Unfortunately, by coming up short, that will be they will be taking home the silver medal, if you will. Wei Yi does just resign, in fact, because after this very nice little instructive maneuver, I'll just show real quick because we are here for the chess. The knight was trying to be pesky against the white king, but the king kind of out footworks the knight here, out hustles it, walking into some discovered checks. And once this knight gets to an awkward square, you go back to g3 because the knight is no longer able to check on e2. If the rook had check on the third rank, Fabi would have blocked it. And now that the checks are gone, look for white's rook and knight to do nasty things to the black king and the pawn here. So that was a very nice little instructive little footwork there from Fabiano to bring it to a close. But it is all Team China. Let's bring up our congratulatory graphic because they are the superpower of chess these days in many team events. They do well in both men's and women's Olympics. And in this event that is sort of the first of its kind in terms of being kind of an online chess Olympics, they do get the job done with a host of characters, like you said, play for the China Pandas in the Pro Chess League. Those are a lot of familiar faces, which is why China, if you forgot and maybe haven't followed the Pro Chess League as closely as you should have, you can go to prochessleague.com. They are once again in the Final Four. So that event has been delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously. But that is Team China. That is the China Pandas. They are awesome, and they win the FIDE Online Nations Cup.
A well-deserved victory for Team China. Got to tip your cap to them. And, they had some struggles, of course, and we just saw in that final round, Fabiano Caruana took out Wei Yi, but throughout the event, Yu Young Yi being the star for them, and Ding Liren, I think he's kind of gone under the radar just because of how exceptionally Yu Ying has played. But Dingley Ren was a star on board one for that team, and he came through in a big way. In this game, against Hikaru Nakamura, level battle, just looking at his teammates' needs. But Dingley Ren, just like Hikaru Nakamura has been so great for Team USA, Dingley Ren has been awesome for Team China.
Well, all these players have been good for all of us. The fans win when it comes to online events like this, and so many great chess websites holding so many great events. This has been an awesome one. We're going to be back here in just a moment with interviews, final thoughts, breaking down game reviews, and also a very, very big announcement about upcoming online chess events here on chess.com. So don't go anywhere. When we return, we will be giving some big interviews, some big announcements, and wrapping up here the FIDE Chess.com Online Nations Cup. And we are now back here with the FIDE Chess.com Online Nations Cup with the winners of the event. Team China, first of all, to all of you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yifan, I'd like to start with you. Great to see you. I feel like the last time we were here, you were joining us as a commentator.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was the Superfinal Cup. Okay, somewhere last year.
And now you're here once again as a player. I think it's been a big storyline for all of us following the event to see you sort of come out of retirement, right, during the unique times of COVID-19, but also, of course, this event giving the opportunity. How exciting has it been for you to play in an elite chess event for the first time in a while?
Wow. So I'm more excited about that. Actually, we're here that chess.com and FIDE are actually organizing this event for top players who are representing their countries or their regions, whatever, because under this global climate, actually, it is very important that we are trying to bring up something together that make chess somehow still on the air, you know. So this is, I guess, one of the privilege for chess, as we can do a lot of different events online. Therefore, I thought that I'm very glad to be part of the Team China and participate in this event. And for me, yeah, of course, it's always good, you know, come back to the chessboard and playing some games. Though I would say that this event that we're playing online with this very special format that, you know, have a team with mixed gender. So this is something really different, but very interesting. And also, I'm very happy that our team did a great performance.
Thank you.
No,
go ahead, Robert.
That was very well said. And well, I think we have to talk to you, Yang Yi, because you were kind of the all-star for Team China throughout. I mean, everyone did well as a team, but you seemed to be on fire. What was going on? Like, were you just in the right mindset for this event? How did you prepare?
Yes, thank you. Today I just play my game because yesterday I follow my team game. I lost the game. I think my opponent very strong. Today I just want to play good game. Yeah.
It makes sense. I'm going to ask a question to you, Dingley Ren. You also had a great event, right there along with you, holding down board one. How tough was it for you to be holding down board one and for all the opponents you had here, and how did you feel about your overall performance there?
For today?
Yeah, today and throughout the event.
Yeah, of course, today is the most important day in this tournament, and I prepared a lot, but it turns out to be not so good for me since I totally misplayed after the middle game, and I was worse. And he surprised me by a draw offer that I would not considered. And I think my position is already slightly worse.
I was actually just going to ask you that. Were you relieved when the draw offer came? It sounds like you were. Dingley Ren? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was surprised. So I just accept this offer immediately.
And for you, Wei, did you feel relieved when you saw that Hikaru and Ding Yuan drew their games? Was that a relief for you because your position was pretty tough at that point?
Well, in the ending, I think my game and Ding Yuan's game both are very dangerous. But then I saw he got a draw, and then I think maybe Yang Yi had some chance to win. So yes, I had a better performance, but my teammates played very well.
I wanted to ask a question here to help us round this out. Team China is known as not just a global superpower. Obviously, the Chinese team is performing amazing, and not just individually, but in so many team events. So congratulations to all of you and to the country. And I wanted to ask individually, I'll start with you, Yifan. Is there something about team events that makes it even more special for for the Team China, performing so well in Olympiads and performing so well in events like this. Do you guys prepare well as a team, or is it just something about the dynamic of it that you feel brings out the best chess, starting with you, Yifan, when China plays in team events?
Well, I thought that it cannot be judged by a single factor. It actually works out together. So firstly, I guess we're having the very good team spirit. It means that the general atmosphere is very harmony, and people are tend to have sometimes discussing together, just like as teammates, but also as friends. I guess that is very important. Though everyone can perform very good individually, but when you're playing team competition, sometimes you need to be in that form and you need to act well to consider you are part of the team. So I guess that in this sense, actually, Team China doing very well. And actually, we also have this long tradition as if we recall back to the few decades ago that many grandmasters from China, from the earlier generation, did a great job. They won, first the women's team won the Olympiad, and then also our guys won Olympiad back to 2014, and even were team champions before. So all of this actually, brought to our generation. We kind of just got that heritage. Yeah.
You Young Yi, how do you feel about team events? It certainly brought out some good chess for you, right?
啊，听不懂，他说啥呀？
他说团体赛的时候你就会发挥的特别好。
然后呢？
为什么？
是吗？他说就想让你说一说团体赛跟个人赛的区别什么的。
就是为什么你觉得你在中国队一直下特别好，原因是什么？然后说你的这个在团体赛中表现一直都非常的好，如此状态就可以。
OK. Because we are team, yeah. I just every game 赛前准备怎么说
？Preparation.
Yeah, I just analyze, yeah, my opponent, yeah. 然后呢？然后咋说？
你说区别吗？
Well, you played great. I don't want to put you on the spot if I'm having trouble with the translation. No worries. Wei Yi, your thoughts on playing in a team event? How important is to you?
I think I always had a bad performance in team events.
This is the.
I think maybe every game I played in some pressure, and then I think I played very bad. But I was very lucky because I have a very, very strong teammates.
That's how I feel most of the time. I feel very lucky because I have a strong teammate. But Dingli Ren, I guess we'll go finish the circle. Your thoughts on how you play in team events versus individual events?
Yes, I feel I was more motivated, but also have more pressure by playing team events. Very strange. Since today I feel very nervous before the game.
Me too.
Game played against Magnus in the Magnus Invitational. I think today maybe I was more nervous and I prepared more time today. Since not my own game, if I lost or play very badly, they will cost the match. It's more important than individual results, I think.
Got it. Well, you didn't lose. You came through there. Obviously, Team China almost didn't lose a single match all event besides the one yesterday. So congratulations again to all of you. We could keep you here for a while, but I don't think we have too many more follow-up questions, and we'll let you go celebrate the team victory. So congratulations to all of you again.
Congratulations.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
It just
so freaking up.
She
Oh, we won on time.
Freaking phenomenal.
She was on a winning position for her.
I wanted it so bad, and he did it.
Now take the room. Now take the room.
What a move!
And that video being an outro to our interview with Team China, but not by mistake. As a big announcement we have here is that with more details to come, this year we are increasing the Speed Chess Championship prize fund from what has historically been $50,000 for the last several years to $250,000 and making it an annual season event with a completely redesigned qualification system, Robert. The main event itself is going to be doubled from what was a 16-player knockout bracket to now being a 16-player knockout bracket for $100,000 instead of $50,000. And we're very excited about this. We've been putting a lot of thought into how to unify and bring so many of the events we're doing together. And we are making a huge step that starts in June to launch a Speed Chess Championship Grand Prix Series that ultimately leads to a $100,000 knockout bracket. So I know the Speed Chess Championship is your favorite event in the world. And so how pumped are you about the stakes getting a little bit higher here?
I'm very excited. I mean, I love the Speed Chess Championship. You know, it's fast paced. It's many of the best players in the world. And so, and what more could you ask for? So I'm looking forward to it. It's great to have chess, especially online chess, in a time like this. And with bigger prizes, bigger stakes, I think everybody is going to be really motivated to do their best.
Yeah, well, we're super pumped about it. It's the first time we've broken the news. More details will come. We're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we're going to review some more games, highlight for you what was the last round here, the Superfinal of the FIDE Online Nations Cup. We will talk a little bit more about what the new format of the Speed Chess Championship will be, all the prizes increase and where that's going, and what the opportunities are for title players to qualify for that. So more breakdown of what was Team China's victory here in the Superfinal, and much more thoughts in just a couple minutes. And we thank everyone who is still with us here. The Superfinal of the FIDE Online Nations Cup wraps up with a tied match that ultimately delivers China the match victory because of their draw odds that they earned throughout the event. But one guy who ensured that it was going to be a tied match with a victory over Wei Yi is Fabiano Caruana, and he joins us now. Fabi, thanks for being here.
Hey, Danny.
Have you wished your mother happy Mother's Day yet?
Yeah, I have. I did this morning when I woke up.
Okay, I didn't want Robert to be worried about it. That was all.
You know, he wished his mother happy Mother's Day. He won his game. What more could you ask for from
What more could you ask for a son, right? Well, Fabi, take us through this game. You've been so awesome joining us and giving us the breakdown. Were you surprised to see the Scandinavian, first of all, hashtag Team Scandi?
Yeah, this was a surprise. I mean, I expected either a Najdorf or maybe some sort of Rui Lopez. I mean, he's always been a Najdorf player. Right. And I saw he was kind of mixing it up a bit in this event and he played the Open Spanish against Karyakin. But the Scandinavian, I really didn't expect because it's not at all within his repertoire or even like the types of positions that he normally goes for.
Do you think he did it as a nod to John Bartholomew and his upcoming I Am Not a GM speech championship match?
100%. That was
100%. We're going to get to that and give you a chance to make predictions about the upcoming John Bartholomew versus Greg Shahade. I'm not a GM. But okay, we had a Scandinavian. I'm clicking through the game. I think you can see it. Let us know if you have any thoughts about the line you chose or, any more surprises. At some point, it seemed like it turned around and he was using time on the clock. So maybe he wasn't expecting the variation that you played here.
I don't think that he was really very well prepared for this line. I mean, I don't know anything about Queen D8. I was just making moves which seemed kind of natural and logical.
Right.
I don't think that any of my moves could be really criticized at the start because, I mean, obviously, if I develop in this way, it can't be bad.
Right.
I don't know if there's something more critical for white, and maybe there's something which is more dangerous for black than this. But this looked pretty good, and I was very surprised he played B6. I thought his idea with this was, I don't know, to play like E6, knight E7, some sort of development like that, where black is certainly a bit worse, but it's not a disaster. And it's important that knight B5 he has knight E8, so he doesn't lose a pawn on C7.
Right.
Well, he did lose a pawn on C7, didn't he? So.
Yeah. Well, he played B6, as you said. And then obviously, we weren't sure he would go for the E6 line, but Robert, in live fashion, kind of predicted that black struggles because the bishop coming here, there's obviously worries with B4, maybe. I mean, the knight's a little tender, but there's tactics here. And so when he played E6 and voluntarily goes for the pawn down endgame, what were your thoughts at this point?
I was expecting E6. I didn't see a single move from him besides that because bishop B7, B4 doesn't work out for him either. After knight H5, I have like bishop D2, or can't see the board anymore.
But no, I was going to say it looks pretty good, right? So
or knight D5, and he gets my rook on A1, like queen D5, BA5. Right. But the 2 pieces along with the attack that I'll have because his kingside now no longer has a defender. I think this is more or less completely gone for black. Basically, just lost. So I expected him to go for the endgame because I didn't see any other options.
Well, Fabi, when you got to this endgame, you did win a pawn, but did you feel like there was this burden on you? It's a team event that you needed to win just for your team to have a chance?
I think it was still too early to say. None of the other games had really been it wasn't clear what was going to happen. The contours of the game weren't really set yet. So I didn't know if I had to, but my general feeling before the match was that our chances were rather limited. I mean, we are probably slight underdogs against a team like China, and they have draw odds, and you can't really expect a player to win with black. I think it can happen, but it's not really something that you should calculate beforehand. And I thought that, I mean, Irina, of course, has a chance to win, but generally speaking, a draw on that board would be a fine result. Right. So you're sort of left with my board as the remaining white game with some chances to win. And that was like, I was very happy in the middle of the match because I thought I have good winning chances. I thought that Hikaru's position was unclear, but it didn't look bad for him. Wesley's position looked, I wasn't really sure. I mean, once his knight was on B8, I thought he really has no development, but I also kind of trusted in his ability to wriggle out of it.
Right.
And Irina's position looked completely sterile. I felt like that was more or less immediately going to be a draw, which I think was fine for our team.
And
So
it takes us back to you because you had this position, here, and what was it like? Like when you were going through this game, did you feel like your chances were very high to win this game, or did you feel like Black had good chances to hold the half point?
I thought I should be objectively close to winning, but I just wanted to point out a funny moment because I played G4, and
Backing up, okay.
yeah, after Bishop F5. I mean, this is not necessary, but Bishop C2 is sort of a critical move, I thought. And then I play Rook A C1, so the bishop doesn't have many squares to go to. It has to go to E4. And here at first I thought I would play G5, Bishop F3, GF, Bishop E2, FG, and I thought this was a clever way to win. But then I saw Rook E8, and he actually defends his bishop, and it still stays alive. But instead of G5, then I saw Knight D2, and it all kind of fell together instead of G5.
Yeah.
He has like Knight D4 here, but I felt like either Bishop A6 or G5 would work out for me there.
Right.
Maybe G5 is even cleaner. But. So Knight D2 was important to see, I think. And after Bishop E6, I felt...
Okay. In the game.
Oh,
G4,
no,
Bishop
I
E6.
blundered G5, Rook C3.
Yeah.
Bishop A6 then.
Yeah, Bishop A6 was winning. So.
Bishop A6 is good. Okay.
Yeah. So he played. No, that's a good point. And we're kind of bouncing around at this point in live fashion. We had almost kind of given a lot of attention to start. Saw you won the pawn and said, well, Fabi's probably going to be in control of that one. So looking at the other games, we missed some of those critical tactics. So that's nice for the viewers to see. But okay, the game went on, and we came back to it with full attention right around here when you played Knight B5, and we were looking at this with a little bit of nervousness from the perspective that looked like it had gotten a little shaky. But were you confident throughout that you could win this second pawn, and even if Black wins some material back, you should have winning chances?
Well, I felt like I had misplayed it, and the thing is, I had planned Knight D6 instead of Knight A7 when I got here.
Okay. But what made you go against that?
Yeah, take, Rook takes. I mean, he doesn't have to take what I think he should. And Knight G4, and this tactic is and F6. At first, I thought this should be a very good endgame, but like he gets counterplay with Rook C4. I mean, I get my Rook to the 7th. It looks very good, but I'm not really establishing my knight on E4 in time.
Right.
And it started to feel a bit unclear. So I went for Knight A7 based on some brief calculations, like Rook C5, Bishop F6 seemed winning. Rook E2, Rook D8, Bishop F8, and now Knight C8 I think is a good move. And he has to play Rook C7, but then I thought many moves should win, like Knight G5 or probably other things as well, because he's kind of eternally pinned, and Knight H7 is a threat, all sorts of things.
Okay.
But there might be something even better than Knight G5 here.
Okay.
Here I was
you foresaw the game continuation, when you took an A7. And I mean, what was happening here was looking like, some pieces are getting traded. So did you have any fear? I mean, fear is a strong way of putting it, but did you have any concern that as pieces get traded, that maybe his chances to draw increase, or you still felt very confident that you were, on the path to scoring the full point?
No, at this point, I felt like it should be objectively a draw. And I thought that he should play F6 at one moment or another, either
like right now?
Either now or after Bishop E5, Knight E5. I wasn't sure which is better. I mean, of course, I'm playing for two results, so there's really no risk for me.
Right.
And he
you
was
still
low on
have
time.
this idea coming, but if he plays F6 now, you're saying you just don't quite have, yeah.
Well, I have Rook D8 here. FE5, Rook E8, King F7. Now let's say I throw a check in on E7. Yeah, I don't know if it's, let's say King F8, and now Rook C7, and I'm still better, but objectively, it's probably not going to be winning.
Right.
But when he's low on time, I think there's still
the time pressure combined with ideas maybe like that. So it's still hard for Black, but okay. So you thought you might get a position like this?
Or I was expecting him to take on E5 first and then F6. And then I guess I'll take, Knight takes, and he Rook D6. So this one, actually, I thought that this one I wasn't really worried about. Okay, he might pick up f2, but my pawns are much faster.
Mm-hmm.
I have the 2 connected passers. So, like rook b6, knight f2, a4. I don't really think I'm worried about his pawns.
You just push in and forget this guy. You just run over here with the king. Interesting.
Yeah,
cool.
take king f1. I thought that my winning chances should be pretty high here.
Right. Okay.
But I was very happy when he took on b2 because then I thought it should just be a win.
So he took on b2, and yeah, we were here too, and we highlighted this very nice rook d8 maneuver where you bring the king to f8 with check, and at this point it seems like the king side is just way too weak, and unfortunately at this point probably the actual memo was setting in though, right? Because I think it was about this exact position here where Yu Young-yi finishes off yet another brilliant victory, right, in defeating Wesley So. So your
there was
thoughts?
another funny moment I wanted to point out because he played this very clever move, rook e1.
Okay.
I mean, rook e2 I think was a blunder. When he played rook e2, he probably just missed that I can play rook e7 because this is just a bad move. But then he played this very clever rook e1. And now king g2, he has knight g7, knight g6, knight e6. And
with knight f4 check coming. Wow.
And I'm losing a piece or the exchange or something, which is not what I want. So that's why I had to play king g2.
So actually, let me ask you a question because it's very easy to play king to g2 after rook e1 check. Just, it's the obvious move. How did you keep your composure here to realize that black actually still has some chances? Because to a player as strong as you, and I mean, even to my eye, it just seems like white is winning at this point. So how do you take that pause and not rush the decision?
Well, rook e1 is a completely nonsensical move if there's not a trick. Because otherwise you just don't take the a2 pawn. Like if I play king g2, I basically pick up his g pawn without even losing a2.
Right.
So it makes no sense unless there's a trick. And logically, the trick should be after the most logical move, king g2, because king h2 is a bit less what you want to do. I mean, it leaves f2 hanging, which is you'd rather keep it protected.
Right.
So, and since black's options are so limited, it kind of came very quickly that his trick was knight g7, knight e6.
Makes sense.
It's really interesting. I mean, just to hear your thought process, and we still have almost 25,000. Actually, we do roughly 25,000 to be with us still. So thanks for tuning in here. The results are in. If you didn't get the memo, China wins, but a huge victory by Fabiano Caruana, and with that trick that he just showed us, really interesting insight. But it brings us to a question, Fabi. Yu Young-yi gets the job done for Team China as he did pretty much throughout the event. But you also were on the short list of a lot of people's candidates for our daily question, which is who's the MVP of the event, right? If we had a season and we were asking an all-star question, who would get your MVP for the event?
Who would get my MVP?
Yeah.
I would get my MVP.
Okay, well, great. That's what I wanted to hear. There you go. And by the way, you were Robert's pick as well. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You have it. You didn't lose throughout the entire event. You came up with some huge victories, and ultimately, you dominated China's board too, right? So you kind of did your job against China, against Wang Hao and Wei Yi. So let's take a second and just step back here and ask your thoughts on the overall event. I mean, what did you think of the first ever Online Nations Cup, the format, the experience, and go ahead and speak your mind if you don't mind. Tell us what you thought about the event and your overall performance with Team USA.
I mean, I enjoyed playing it enormously. I think the final was a bit anticlimactic. I mean, I know it kind of sounds like as the losing team in the match, it sounds a bit like an excuse, but it would be nice to see a tiebreak or something, some sort of continuation of the match, or I mean, like from my point of view, I just played one game today, which feels like a very like a bit of a premature finish.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you, Fabi. But also, I mean, in that question, like, what advantage should the team that finishes in first place throughout those 10 rounds get in a final like this?
Well, it's difficult to come up with a format on the spot. I think that for sure the winning team should get an advantage. I mean, they completely outperformed every other team in the group stage. And I think they were the deserved winners. I mean, just because they tied this one match doesn't mean that they didn't overall dominate the tournament.
Right.
But it was more in the interest of just making it more of a down to the wire sort of finish rather than just one match.
Right.
And I'm not sure exactly how that could be achieved, but I'm sure there's some way to make it, like a grander final, let's say.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, it's been an interesting experience, and for sure with the folks working hard with the format at FIDE and here within our side, I can say, I mean, it'll be great to be able to try to build on this and continue to make great online events. Speaking of great online events, we understand you've become a bit of a closet fan of one particular event. You want to give us your breakdown of what you see in the Final Four here, given that you've been following the I'm Not a GM Speed Chess Championship. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I've been following it closely. I've watched all the matches.
Did you watch mine? Please tell me you didn't watch mine. It was
No,
so
I
bad.
watched your match against Teddy. I thought that was like the most spectacular match of the event so far.
Really? Oh wow. Well, thank you. I mean, we did go to overtime, I guess.
Yeah, it was, I think, the closest, and there was like that one twist at the end, right when everyone thought you were dead, and then the rook on was it B7 or C7 gets hung.
Oh yeah, that's right. He hung his rook. Oh man, yeah. Well, you really did follow it. Wow, I gotta up my game next time now that I know you're watching. But you will be watching when Bartholomew and Shahadi throw down, and then your boy Teddy over there against Alina. Your thoughts on what we're gonna see in these final two matches, real quick?
I think that John should be a pretty big favorite. I actually expected Carissa to beat Greg, but it didn't quite happen. And John, I expect to be a favorite, but I'm hoping for a close match. And yeah, I support Teddy. I've known him for I don't even know how long. I mean, since we were kids, we were playing chess together. So I'm supporting him to get to the final.
Yeah.
And Fabi, be honest. Are you watching because you like the tournament, or you just want me, to see me, and then I have to respond to your messages when you hit me up about the tournament?
Yeah, I'm just watching for your commentary.
Control.
The highlight of my day.
Well, Fabi, thanks so much for joining us, man. And we're all looking forward to the Final Four there in the I'm Not a GM SEC. And now people know you'll be watching. But dude, you had a great event. Definitely make a case for the MVP overall. And congratulations to Team USA, even though it came up a little short. And we hope to have you again in events in the future.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Fabi.
Man. As we got some awesome, felt like very personal coaching from Fabiano Caruana throughout the event. We remind everybody you can get personal coaching now on Android. We're very excited about this. If you haven't tried this app, I cannot recommend it enough, and I know that's our job, but not kidding. It is very, very insightful and surprisingly instructive for an artificially intelligent overlord who just looks like your very generous uncle who took you to that one movie that you'll never forget, Dr. Wolf. Fabiano has been great. I mean, this analysis is great. I'm like on the edge of my seat trying to follow, and it's awesome. And him and Hikaru both helped lead Team USA with the most games they played. Ultimately, couldn't quite get the gold, but it was awesome. Let's bring up the results here in full view so everyone can remind themselves of what just happened here in the Superfinal. Nakamura drew Dingley Ren. A bit of a surprising finish that I think just left a lot of fans hanging, right? Not just because Hikaru tends to have more fans than anybody else watching, but I think they wanted him to keep pushing. And ultimately, maybe coming in, a draw wouldn't have been a bad result as Black against Dingley Ren. I think it felt like there might have been a chance for more.
Well, Dingley Ren himself said he was surprised, right? So we heard it from one of the players' mouths themselves. And I'm not trying to make any sort of grander statement, but it did come as a surprise just because it felt like there was more life in the position.
Right.
And even if it ultimately will be a draw, like playing it out could be useful. And, it just was maybe not Hikaru's game to win because he was pressing. I was impressed with his play from the Black side, but I also would be remiss not to mention the other two players. We focused way too much, in my opinion, on just Fabiano and Hikaru. They would not be in the Superfinal if not for Wesley So. He beat Yu Yang in that game to win them the match. And I should point out that Irina Krush, despite being heavily outrated on her board, drew Ju Wenjun yesterday and drew Ho Yifan today. So Irina deserves major props for stepping up in a very difficult spot where she's the underdog. She's the point in the match where you're like, wait a second, if we want a victory for Team China, like shouldn't we aim for board 4 where we're outrating our opponent by a couple hundred points? So both Wesley and Irina, they performed admirably. Although today, of course, the highlight game. It's a fantastic finish there, a photo finish by Yu Yang. Both of those players deserve props, and I don't want to leave them out of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the game, as you said, between Yu Youngie and Wesley. So I'm gonna bring it up one more time here as it was yet again just. I mean, I feel like I want to call it. It's Yu Youngie's brand of chess. He said in the interview, and for those of you that have been here throughout this whole show, it was a little tough at times. Obviously, there were some things being lost in translation, and we apologize for that. But Yu Youngie, it was just awesome to join us, Robert, and gave his thoughts. One of the things he did say was that yesterday he kind of felt like he played the team game, which was, I translated, a little bit of not to lose. Today, this was not a game that he played not to lose. I mean, this game was awesome, right?
It was one that, is kind of seared into your memory because it was a blistering attack towards the end of it. But out of the opening, we got this feeling, at least as I was saying, that, you got the split pawns for Black, and then Black returned the favor and split White's pawns. But it just felt like the advantage sat with Yu Yang on the white side, because his bishop on g2, that's the piece I pointed out. And ultimately, that bishop on g2 became the hero. It landed on e4 at the end with some pins. But that bishop on g2 is just such a strong minor piece in the position. And that queen c2 move also, you noted that Wesley so started taking time in response to queen c2. It's like just not giving Black an easy move of bishop e6 with a tempo, rook to b8 with a tempo when that queen was on b3. So queen to c2, dropping it back, gives White more flexibility. And I think that move in particular is one that's praiseworthy.
Yeah, I agree. It's the move that gave Wesley pause, took away the f5 square. You highlighted that probably he just didn't want bishop e6, maybe just because he doesn't want to lose the bishop pair, right? And in hindsight, maybe this would have been welcome rather than getting checkmated in like a blistering attack, right? But this is certainly one where you would literally be handing Yu Youngie a 2-result game for forevermore with the bishop pair. So understandably so, Wesley didn't want that. But as we highlighted in real time, that meant that Black was going to have some struggles. There's where do you put pieces? If you can't develop the bishop to e6 because the bishop pair, you didn't want to go to you can't go to f5 anymore. You don't want to go to g4 because what are you going to do? Just give up the bishop pair this way on a move like queen e4? So Black was stuck. And the reason we're highlighting everybody is because this is where the wheels started to come off now that we have our full 2020 hindsight view, right? Queen to c7 was played after a long think. Here comes queen e4. The light scores are opened up. And really, it started to go wrong when you saw this move here. This was the underdeveloping move that probably Wesley really wishes he could have back, this move knight to b8.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to take a drink of water. I've been talking for hours. Keep going.
Go for it, yeah. So Black is undeveloping, right? Now the rook comes to d1. Bishop a6 is met by queen e6, which was really, that was the moment you really start to feel Yu Youngie feeling it, because he doesn't care what the computers think. He understands the development initiative is going to be the thing that wins this game. And I think to our credit, even though we said, hey, Wesley was going to take the pawn, we were like, this position, forget what the computers were saying. We knew that this position was very, very dangerous for Black because the extra pawn is not going to tell the story for a very long time, and White was just going to be bringing all kinds of pressure into the center here. And so,
and it was a kind of thematic sacrifice here because you look at the queen on c4. The king doesn't have an escape to g8, and so when you open up the h file, you look at how that diagonal is covered. And so if I can get a rook to h1, then your king is going to be in checkmate. So the engine, I'm looking at the bar
I love
here.
That. I love that the engine is so wrong about this position. It makes me so happy.
Well, it could just be a depth issue, right? Where it doesn't see, the full extent. But it also probably means that Black had a defense available to him. And after hg5, he played his rook to g6, and you see the evaluation go back up. Maybe we saw bishop e6, didn't work. So maybe bishop a6. That way, there's no queen e2 retreat, and queen h4 is still met by rook h6 after this variation. So that rook h6 maneuver is very helpful.
Yeah, but still very difficult for Black to even play even there, right? You're still down material, and you would still take White, I think, in terms of the pressure and the attack that you're getting. Because even on bishop a6, okay, we know the game the move in the game was bad, but even on bishop a6, if the queen goes anywhere else, the point is you still can't develop, right? I don't know where that is, if not h4 because of rook h6. Like even queen b3, you just keep the position, And this is just such a nightmare for Black to have to defend this kind of attack.
Well, there's one important distinction, because look at the game continuation for a second. So if we go back and see what happened in the game, look at the move that was played. Bishop D5 is not possible if the queen is not on C4, pinning the C6 pawn.
So that might have been the key defensive moment. Wesley had maybe one opportunity here to not get blown off the board, and it was maybe to find a move like bishop A6 to stop this bishop to D5 idea. Again, that's the big difference, is there's no way to take advantage of the pin. Although apparently white is...
Rook G6 clearly is not the move, because we see the...
you can come in here. I guess that's it. And now there's all kinds of problems. F5 is falling. I guess that's the problem with the bishop not being on C8. Wow.
Yeah, and you can also just go bishop F3, king G2, rook H1. The ideas are not going to change in terms of checkmating attacks. But, just the point is that it's such a tough position for Black to defend here. And it goes to show that Yu Yangyi's decision-making paid off. He went not all in, but he went in a way that is a calculated risk. He gives up a knight, but Black's king will never find any sort of shelter. And as we saw in the game, I mean, it was just a knockout blow.
Yeah, he took this pawn, walked into the check, and backed up, which was a fun way to end the game. Wesley resigns in lieu of rook H1. And the fact that it's unstoppable, not even winning back a ton of material, but just mating. And like I said, not only this was the game of the round for China, but the player of their event in many ways, Yu Yangyi. As we say, we could give credit to every board, and we should. And again, there's no way to not say that. That's why these teams are super teams. But he definitely rose to the occasion, and like he said, he played his game. He played his brand of chess, in the interview, and he told us that he played his game today, and it paid off. So let's bring up the full lineup and give credit to all the players who played for Team China. Remember that Wang Hao and Zhu Wenjun, it's not every day you can let a current competitor in the FIDE candidates and Wang Hao sit out, and the reigning women's world champion in Zhu Wenjun sit out, but your team is still that strong.
Yes. There's nothing else to say. That team is super strong. They were the deserved champions. They, as Fabiano Caruana himself said, they just dominated the event from start to finish. And in the end, they just got the 2 points they needed to defeat Team USA in the Superfinal.
Yeah. No, it was just amazing. Breath taken away, and this has been a very long event, an exciting one, but Team China, the deserved winner, and can't wait to look forward at the chance to do another event like this. But right now, the big announcement that we also made that we're looking forward to, and the one that we still have more than 25,000 of you with us to take note of, big announcement today is that we are increasing our prize fund in the Speed Chess Championship to $250,000 in total prizes throughout the cycle, and the main event itself is being doubled from $50,000 to $100,000 just for the single 16-player bracket. Now, I'll give a little bit of high-level thoughts on this because people may want to know, what does that mean, right? Well, starting in June, we are going to have a massive increase in the Title Tuesday prizes, along with a format shift, Robert, that we've already kind of foreshadowed was coming, right? Something that's going to extend the rounds a little bit, but then put the top players into a bracket where they join us on camera. They're not only required to screen share and have video for security, but also, because the prizes are so increased, a good reason to do that, but also for entertainment. We'll get to see the best players duking it out. The qualifier throughout that will also lead to a different type of point system that's going to put people into the seeded bracket. So tons of details to come. We're super excited, but it's going to lead to I think a lot of interest as we build toward an annual event. And one of the events that everyone looks forward to every year is the main SCC.
For sure. And from Team China, I mean, Ding Liren will be happy to hear that, I'm sure. And maybe Yu Yangyi's saying that, hey, I want to get involved with that. My speed chess, my rapid chess abilities are clearly up there with the best of them in the world. So the Speed Chess Championship in general is such a great event. And of course, also coming up is the European Online Chess Championship. So for those of you who are from Europe, that would not be us, you're able to play and compete in this event. And that's actually less than a week away. I didn't even realize how soon it is.
Yeah, no, it's going to be amazing. It's something that they're already getting more entries for that than they thought. I think it's really going well as far as interest and participation, and it'll be a huge team effort by everyone at the ECU and chess.com to observe everything closely, make sure everything is fair, which we will. Been talking a lot about that. For those who always ask, you can see our breakdowns of what we do over on our YouTube channel, replay some of the VODs in terms of our approach to fair play. There's also been a lot of hype surrounding the Title Tuesday, just as is during the COVID-19 kind of breakout, bringing more events online as every online chess server is right now. And the people that win are the people watching these shows. The fans win. It's been a huge effort, I would say, collectively by the global chess community. And shout out to all the sites doing that: Lead Chess, Chess24, Chess.com. Everyone's doing their part to bring great chess and entertainment to the fans. And we hope everyone's appreciating that. But guess what? That prize fund is going up. It's not going to be $1,600 in June. I'm not going to say exactly what it is yet, but it's only getting more as the Title Tuesdays joins the greater Speed Chess Championship Grand Prix. We're pretty pumped. And I'm going to leave it at that, besides to say, how pumped are you that the next time you'll be on camera, I think, Robert, is for the I'm Not a GM SCC with Danya Neri. I'm not allowed to commentate on that because I'm not good enough.
I'm so pumped because I don't have to wear a blazer anymore. I can dress down. I can be casual. I'm going to have Danya Naroditsky with me for the coverage. And it's just such a fun event. The players are so happy to be there. They're doing a little bit of trash talking. The event stuff is still high level. So Danya and I will have the coverage May 14th, 10 a.m. Pacific time, as well as May 16th at 4 p.m. Pacific time for the final four of that event. But Danny, it's been so fun covering this event with you. It's been a while since we've commentated together. I mean, we were doing the candidates.
You're working with Danya, commenting on my bad chess instead of my bad jokes.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to give you a compliment so you didn't have to be self-deprecating to ruin my compliment, because now I feel like I have to insult you some more, and then you'll give yourself a compliment, and then we'll go in this cycle. But on a serious note, it's been really fun doing this commentary with you, Danny, and everybody's been tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. Whether you're a support of an individual team of chess as a whole, it's meant a lot to the game of chess and to me personally. So thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. And I mean, Danny, I don't know if you want to compliment me in return, but you don't have to. So I'll leave the floor to you.
Of course, I'm working with the greatest commentator in the world. Okay, that's Grandmaster Robert Hess, and you know I actually believe that. You are the man. Thank you so much for holding it down right now. You've been doing more commentary for our events than anybody, and it's always a pleasure. We've had a great time. The team here, I mean, I think this has been one of the best events we've ever been able to hold, the production and the effort there. So shout out to my producer. He's right over there. And everyone that makes it. It's not even a one-man crew. We do so much with all the different production, the assets, the graphics, the sheets, everything that goes into it. It takes a whole team. So thank you so much to Simon, to the man who puts all of our events together and organizes the bleep out of things. No one works harder than Nick Barton here at chess.com, and he has done a fantastic job getting everything together with FIDE. Of course, our partners at FIDE, the FIDE president, Arkady Dvorkovich, it starts with him at the top, and everybody there who brought this event together, brought this event to us, and we decided to throw it down. It's been awesome. Again, shout out to our mods, the people who make everything here a great community. We know that there's a lot of things that could help chess chats and things go off different paths, and we appreciate everyone focusing and on the positive and being here to support the game. So without any further ado, again, one more time, congratulations to Team China and Team USA for making the final, and Team China for taking the gold here. So for chess.com and the first ever FIDE Online Nations Cup, we bid you adieu, we sign off, and we will see you for future events. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms.